What's up, baby? How you doing?
Well, my guy, well, very, very well. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm looking good. You look like it could just be the light on you, but you look like rosier than normal.
I've got this shitty light here to the well, I guess right of me, and it makes it look like shit. But this is my Zoom setup, so
Nah, I like it, man. Sushi, it looks good. It looks like you're simultaneously in England, but also somewhere sunny at the same time.
that's the trick, man. That's the trick. You got to plan for the place where you want to be doing your Zooms at, not the place
Uh,
you're actually doing your Zooms at.
I like it. That's how you got to approach this shit, mate.
It's all maths, man. Everything's all interconnected.
So maths.
I hate
Fucking hell.
maths. Hate
I,
maths.
oh my god, I have missed you, my friend. Fucking hell, that's good.
I
What,
know,
uh,
man.
what have you been doing? Talk to me. What's been happening in the lives of Shaquille Howe?
Hard to explain. I don't know. I think I felt 26 now. I feel like I've been the most busy I've ever been in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. Like doing a master's, like the No Soul Record stuff, working with Loveless. Like I'm producing a few tracks for an artist called Conrad Williams.
Cool.
Great voice. So it's like I'm doing the whole LA prick in a coffee shop things, like actor, writer, producer,
Yeah, yeah.
rapper,
Yeah.
like literally everything. Like I'm just trying to do like I just feel I don't know. I think I've really begun to like consider my own mortality and like what I don't know, like what I leave behind and thinking
Mm,
like if I don't give the things that I want to do in life an actual honest go, put 100% effort into it, balls to the
mm,
wall, whether it fails or doesn't fail, fuck it. Like I just feel like I just have to do this stuff. So I think I've taken a big, massive burden, but like
mm,
I feel more fulfilled. I feel like ready. I feel ready for life. I feel like this is the year I set up.
mm.
This is Iron Man, and I'm waiting for the end game. You know, I'm waiting for that. That's where I feel like I'm at. Yeah, feels a
Nice.
bit mad.
I like, mate.
It's all mad.
I love that analogy. That is quality.
It's all mad, man. It's all mad. It's difficult though. It's difficult to explain without sounding like a prick. But like, I don't know, man. Because I feel like in life, a lot of people, when you say like what you're doing, they
Mm,
don't actually honestly answer that question wanting to know the answer, if that makes sense.
hmm.
Obviously you do, but like a lot of people in life you find like, oh, what are you up to, mate? And they only ask that question as a means to like give you the answer that they want, if that makes sense. Like they just want you to finish talking so you can talk.
Yep.
And I don't know, man, I've always feel like a bit of a prick when I actually tell people what they want, and it's like they're kind of like, oh well, I'm doing this, and it's like I get that, but like we can have a conversation about what I'm doing, and then we can have that conversation about what you're doing. You know, that natural conversation would actually flow.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult because I feel like I don't know. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, recently, a few setbacks and stuff like that. So I'm in a bit of in my head about what I'm doing and where I want to go. Yeah, it's difficult, man. It's difficult. It's a difficult life, but I feel like that's what life is. I feel like I'm living through all the
Mate,
strife.
mate, it's
How about you,
fucking.
man? How you doing? How's everything going, man?
Yeah, things are going good. Well, I mean, I will stay on you for a little bit longer. Well, I mean, it's beautiful to
Mm.
hear from what you were saying for that stuff there. If obviously you don't have to answer if you don't want to. If I may ask, what sort of setbacks have you
Mm.
been encountering?
I think in sometimes you can have like I won't go into it per
Yeah,
like thing because
yeah,
in
whatever you want to
terms
say,
of
man.
like I'll give you the outline of it, but won't say any names. But
Yeah.
in terms of like I don't know, I think it's difficult. I want to be a creative director in life. I want to have my hands in all the pies in terms of art. Like I want to be able to do directing, writing, film work, like music, everything. I want to do because I feel like that's what I've always been,
Mm,
and I feel like it's hard to get people on board with that stuff if you haven't when you're beginning it. It's like that kind of thing of like, remember when we were like 16 trying to get jobs, right? And they're like, what kind of job experience do you have? And you're like, I'm fucking 16, you idiot.
hmm,
Like,
hmm.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
literally like, I'm a child. Like, how can I have experience when I don't have? I'm asking for you to give me the experience so I can. It's just like one of those things where like I feel like, well, we went through it with Handstand Parade a lot when you kind of go into a situation and there's people who maybe been doing X kind of job longer than you have, and they have their ideas about what they want to do, and they kind of treat you a little bit like you don't know what you want and you don't know what you're looking at. And it's like, for me, it's difficult, especially with Love Less, because it seems to everyone on the outside that we're looking at something really brand new, but realistically, it's not brand new at all for us. It's not. We're looking at all the work we did from Handstand Parade, all the work we did as solo artists, and all the development we've had in the years and years. You're not a band for 8 years, 9 years really, and not know anything when you start a new project. That's not how it works. I think I've been having a lot of setbacks of certain people and certain kind of things, like trying to get them to believe in what I want to do. And what we want to do. I think that's the difficult thing. I'm not sure if I've ever what's the word for it? I don't think I've ever solved that conundrum of trying to get people on side and what you believe in. It's difficult, man. It's difficult. It's really difficult, and it makes you feel a type of way, because when people start treating you like you haven't done anything, like this is your first rodeo, and they can kind of mug you off a little bit. It's kind of like, hold on. Let's rewind for a second. You weren't there when we were doing X, Y, and Z, what we were doing. Why did that give you the opportunity to think? Do you know what I'm saying? It's just weird. It's a weird conundrum. And I don't know why. I think a lot in the creative industries, it's a bit of a muggy industry to be in, if that makes sense. Like, I think from your experience, I think you may agree, like them times you kind of think, no, I know what I want to do as an artist and that's what I want to do. And then people are like, well, mate, I don't know if that'll work. And it's like, you kind of do the thing initially when you kind of go, well, this guy must know more, this person must know more than me, that's why they're telling me to do it, as opposed to sitting down as an artist and going, well, that's not really what we're paying you for. That's not really what I want it to do. It needs to be more of a situation where we're coming together. It's not a situation where you're talking down to me. I'm the artist. Like, we can talk together as a team rather than. It's just long, man. It's just long. It makes you feel the type of way, I think. But I think if you're leading a team, you have to, or not even leading a team. If you're working in a team, you have to be aware that sometimes it's not going to go 100% the way you want it to go. I think that's something that I'm trying to, but at the same time, as an artist, you have to look at the thought process between your vision and, like, you have to be true to your vision. I believe that's what I don't know. It's difficult, man. It's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many aspects to what you're saying there. I mean, what you were saying to begin with, that any creative endeavor, people who are near you or around you will be like, cool, good for you, come back to me when you made money off it. And you're like, okay. Yes. So we learn the fucking hard way that you don't go to the people close to you, because they're either going to blow smoke up your ass because they're biased, or they're not going to give a shit until you've actually proven it's successful.
100%. Which
is all right. Yeah, fair enough. That's just how it is, for whatever reason. That's how it is. But yeah, I think I was having a reflection about this the other day. I was thinking that certainly in our experience when we started to, dip our toes into the pool of networking, meeting people, going to see gigs, going to parties, going to fucking Spotify lounges, whatever, that people you talk to, you imbue them with a sense of perceived authority, because, as you said, they've been here a longer time. And then when we said what we're doing, and they're like, oh, I wouldn't do it that way, you're like, oh, they said this, therefore, and they've been here long enough, therefore they should. It's reasonable to think that they know what they're talking about. But I realize that people saying that, they're saying it because you pose a fucking threat.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Because what you're doing is either proposing to be different, or you are different, which threatens their status quo.
100%. And that's exactly, I think, in the creative industries, it's so much like about, like, because a lot of the things I'm doing with my masters is like, a lot of my masters is based on the idea of what can a music video be, and can it be more than that? And that's the kind of feedback I've had from my lecturers about kind of my proposal, is they've been like I've had my lecturers come to me and say to me, like, this is really, like, I'll give you the rundown from what I've learned from doing a master's.
Mate, crack on.
It's like, from what I understand of it, like a regular, finish uni, you finish school, you go to uni, you do a BA at that level to like pass your BA, if you're doing a creative industry particularly, or actually I think it's any industry, the work you make at the end of your piece has to be, to pass, it has to be considered within the framework of your practice. So say you're doing photography, whatever you put out has to be good enough to be considered a piece of photography, right? It can't just be like, I'm going to take photos with no context. You actually have to know your industry and make work that's good within that industry. At a master's level, you have to make work that pushes that industry forward. That's the criteria for passing. It's not just making the work. It actually has to be bigger than, not even bigger than your industry, but it has to, even if it's a failure, it has to be a risk you take to push that industry forward, to say, hey, why can't it be something XYZ? So like, some of the people on my course of doing like, there's a guy called Emin, who's an amazing artist, very, very interesting artist as well, but he's talking about he's from a very much pop kind of background. And his work, he's talking about doing like, going back to his roots and using Azerbaijani folk music within his kind of pop narrative to kind of push that stuff forward. And it's just really interesting. So it's like, it's super interesting, man. It's super interesting stuff. So like for me, I don't know, because when I'm looking at the music video, all I see is like a space to be something different now. And like the stuff that I want to do with Love Less is profoundly different to like most stuff I'm seeing, and we're getting close to it. But like my master's project basically is like the idea that a music video could an artist, the question I have basically is, could an artist over the course of like a 10-year period, they do 7 albums, whatever like that, each video that comes from album 1 to album 7, can that be within one sustained narrative world? Can you have like, what would happen if you had a situation where you could score Lord of the Rings, or some band or artist made effectively Lord of the Rings and they just scored it with their music and that was their music video? Could that be a way of bridging the worlds of music and film? And that's kind of the idea behind it, of that. Imagine if, I don't know, I mean, name a band, like name a band.
Pendulum.
Or anyone. Pendulum, right, cool. Pendulum's a great one. Imagine if, just coming off the top here, Pendulum's first album, all the videos were set in like some super futuristic world, like think Cyberpunk 2077, future futuristic world. But then album 2 was another story within that world, or the same characters pop up within that world. To say, where album 3 now you have Ryan Gosling coming in to do certain acting roles on a music video, what is effectively a music video, but could also premiere at the Oscars or premiere at Sundance. Like that's the situation I want for music videos. I want music videos to be able to be considered. Like it's really weird. I can get into the thing of it if you'd like.
Mate,
it's really weird.
I'm seeing you fucking ages, mate. Keep crack on.
It's so like, if you think about like popular music song structure, right? Like intro, verse, chorus, probably another verse, probably a chorus, maybe a middle eight, then back to the chorus, back to the verse, outro, right? That structure doesn't actually allow, if you think about it, for any progression for a character. So no music videos you've mainly seen has like a character beginning in one place with these flaws, and by the end of it, those flaws are resolved and the story is resolved in some kind of way, because the actual nature of the song means that by doing a verse, I normally have to go back to a chorus, and then I have to go back to the verse again. So even if the content of the music changes, it's all cyclical. Whereas every film you've ever watched, even if it's a film where it fucks with time, like Interstellar or stuff like that, they're not cyclical. They have end, beginning, middle, and end. So my thought process is that if you could make a situation where you don't have to follow those same structures for a music video, could you then create narrative? Could you then score music tonally rather than thematically? Right? It's really weird when you think about every music video you've ever watched. They all follow this weird structure where there's no narrative. Most of them follow like this one weird structure where they don't have any narrative. and it's more about aesthetics and more about
Mhm.
selling the work rather than selling a story or an ideal. And some artists are really good in, like Travis Scott is a really good example, because Travis Scott, his music videos are exactly the same. They all follow the same kind of weird cyclical pattern where there's no like thematic, there's no actual narrative structure that ties them together, but what ties them together is how weird those worlds are. They all have the same world rules, same narratives and same rules, not narrative, sorry, like thematic structures in the same way. Like, it's weird, man. If you just watch a few Travis Scott videos, you're like, this is fucking strange, all strange. Like, the rules are all bended. It's almost kind of Eldritch, like it's almost like an Eldritch kind of tale from a rap perspective, and they're all weird. They share no links other than that.
Yeah, that's
it's
cool.
Super cool, man. And I think Travis Scott will be the first artist to actually bridge that gap between music and film, because he's doing it with everything. Why is he collaborating with McDonald's? Like, he's doing what I want to do. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, yeah, 100%, man. It's like the Cactus Jack burger. You could go and order it at McDonald's in America. Like, it's crazy. And all he needs to do is do like a Travis Scott X featuring Paramount, and it's going to be a mad, like, it's a mad, like, and that's a whole industry that one person would be broken into. And my kind of goal is to get there before everyone else. And I just think that, yeah, man, it's weird. Like, you can tie stuff together. Like, it's like the 1975 videos. They all shared that when we were listening to them when we were really young. Like, they all shared that. If you think back to them, they all shared that weird, edgy vibe, and that was the world. Like, what would happen if it was actually like Matt Healy wasn't in the video, and you just followed like an actor through that world in that life? Like, I think that's interesting. It's an interesting thing to. But yeah, man, it's weird. It's weird. I think that's what I want my contribution to music with my MA to be, is an understanding of narratives and breaking that mold. I don't understand. Like, it annoys me now to a stage where when I see, like, now that I've shown you that, now that I've kind of spoken about that cyclical nature, when you watch another music video, you're like, this is so weird. Like, why do they do that? And every time I see it now, I can't not see it. It's just like, it's like if you see The Matrix, you can, like, I get how the code works now. Like, it's super, like, and it annoys me because I think to myself, like, it's easy to do the standard cyclical music video kind of narrative and, like, just effectively just reuse and recut scenes. That's exactly what it is. It's just like, say I'm a rapper, shot of me counting money in this thing, me driving, me rapping in front of a car, go back to me counting money, me in the car again, me doing this other stuff. And it's just like, that may tell your story, but is there a way of telling your story in a way that people can actually not even learn something from, but like, Drive is probably the best example of it I could find. Drive's soundtrack is almost as important as its story.
I completely agree. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, would you not rather, like, imagine if you could click onto YouTube right now and pull up like a video and you actually watch something. You actually took it for 4 or 5 minutes. You actually watched something. It wasn't just, I have loads of money, or I'm well sexy, or da 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 da. It was an actual exploration of, like, an actual character development, and you watch something develop and unfold, and you didn't necessarily know where it was going. With every music video you watch, mainly in pop, you actually know where it's going from the first 5 seconds of watching the video, and it's really it's super annoying to watch. Super annoying to watch now that I've seen it. But yeah, man, like, I just think. And it's super weird because it's super ambitious. It's super, like, I'm really aware that it could all go tits up. I know it could all go tits up. It's very, very, but I think it's worth giving it a go. You know, I think it's really worth giving it a go.
Fuck yeah, man.
I want to tell the story of, like, an Eldritchian nightmare, like a fucking crazy, crazy fucking shit. But you watch it with the scope of, I love this. But what would that, and then my thinking of it as well is, like, the whole kind of idea behind it is, what if by taking costume design from that video and transposing it into merch, does that mean that if a character in the video is all wearing these hoodies and maybe they're firemen, right? Does that mean everyone who buys the hoodie as merchandise are creating their own world, right? Same way as you can go to the Disney store and buy a Captain America shield, and you're effectively cosplaying Captain America. If someone were to video with that in like walking through Comic-Con, it looks like Captain America's walking through Comic-Con. So wouldn't that be a better way of marketing, or not even marketing much, but like ingratiating people into your world? If your world is already built, you can go and watch it, and same way you can watch Avengers, and then a kid can go, I want to be Iron Man. He can literally go and be Iron Man. What would that show for music if you could then buy merch you saw in a film, or buy merchandise? Like you can go and buy the Ryan Gosling Drive jacket and be Ryan Gosling from Drive. Like, I think that's a good way of blending the worlds as well. It's complicated. I think it's complicated, but I want to explore those. I want to explore that metric. I want to explore it. And we're getting really close now, because a lot of artists are doing like films, or what they call films, but they're a lot of artists are getting close, but none of them are like exploring a world. They're just exploring like a story for that album, and then that story will go away. Like, for instance, like The Weeknd with his current album, he's wearing this red hoodie, this red suit all the time throughout all these videos, and that's the kind of thematic link that he's kind of this guy living through this like post-apocalyptic Los Angeles. And there's a song called Snow Child, which is one of my favorite songs period now. It's basically him just basically saying that like, I fucking hate LA, it's all fake, I want to go back to Canada. And like that's such a really like, and when you watch the video, you kind of see all these themes come along, and it's like a story unfolding, and then you kind of tie it into the other stories from the album, and you're kind of going like from the album videos, and you're kind of going, oh my god, I can see a kind of a story coming out here. But his next album is not going to be that. I think it'd be far more impactful if you could end the first album with an actual cliffhanger, and actually make people want more, like, so that there's a separation between your videos and your music. You can go and interact with my videos on YouTube and have one experience that's still same kind of music, but it's a completely different experience to when you're just listening to it on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, Deezer, whatever. I think that is an interesting. I want to see if that would work. I want to see how that would go. I think that'd be interesting. I think that a lot of artists go like, okay, I want to make this kind of film story kind of thing like that to go along with my album release, but the thought process of it ends with that album. Whereas it could be better for you to build like an artistic or an aesthetic palette with which you do your music with, or do your videos with, and it's easier. Like we know it's a Marvel film from the first 5 seconds, right? We know that. Would it be better for you to have a hallmark in the same way same way as you would with your drumming, same way you would have your kind of signature style that you kind of naturally ingrain, that could be passed on to your music videos as well. And then if you were to start collaborating with filmmakers and start to do actual films that aren't to do with your world, you can bring your world slightly into the stuff that everyone else is doing. I just think it's a good way. That's what I'm dealing with. It probably sound like a big old ramble, but it's hard to pin down those thoughts, because it's new ground. I think it's new. I think I'm more and more becoming more infatuated with the idea of being an explorer in the arts rather than being the best at the arts. I don't think I care about doing that. I want to put the weirdest possible sounds and shit. I want to do the weirdest possible stuff possible. Like, let's just see what it does. I had a thought process about starting a university when I'm like 45 and just teaching people the weirdest shit, like the properly weirdest shit, and like just seeing like what kind of artists England can create if they're taught to break molds, if they're actually taught from day dot, break every rule, do anything you kind of like, get ahead, like anything you can do to get ahead of, artistically get ahead of another artist, just do it, man. Let's break those molds. Because I feel like we kind of, I don't know, maybe, do you feel like we kind of romanticize the artistic process, and like, because I don't know, I don't think it's as romantic as we play it out to be. Maybe I think you could probably teach people to find that individuality. I don't know. It's something.
You can't teach individualism so you can't teach the end product in itself, but you can teach people how to get to that point where they can realize it. You're definitely fucking right in the fact that we romanticize the creative process, because films and people have already been successful portray it as this eureka moment. We know it ain't a fucking eureka moment. It's a lot of fucking hard work, and you're never guaranteed to get a result from it. But all you can do is just sit there and sit at it and work at your craft all the time. That's
100%.
it. Yes,
I think it's like, I think from our perspective, I think when we wrote What More, like, it probably sounds stupid to anyone who's listening to this, but like when we wrote What More, we actually probably did write that in about 10 minutes. It probably was completely went from nothing to completely finished in 10 minutes. But that statement kind of takes away from probably the 4 or 5 hours we spent trying to work on something before that moment happened. And I think it's like, you can't romanticize that bit where we were in that room just fucking around with nothing, and then something happened. Like, it's not romantic. There was time, that was real, like, work we were putting in to get to that moment. And I think we're maybe focusing too much on those, like, oh yeah, mate, I was in the back of the van and then I wrote this bit and then it became fucking this, mate. And it's like, it's not that, like, it actually isn't. It's not that easy. Like,
no,
a lot of people, I don't know, man. I think I worry about younger generations a lot, because I feel like maybe they don't. I was talking about this to my parents, actually. I'd love to know what you think as well. But like, the ideas of, like, I don't know how to explain it. I worry about younger generations believing the lies that we tell them, that everything was super easy, everything was super like, like, I wonder how, because there's must be a benefit to living in such a tech dominated world right now. But like, I wonder if, I don't know, man, like, the next generation of artists, will they know what they're looking at easier because of technology, or will they be completely fed the dream of like, when you watch The Dirt, you just see this amazing story and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And then, like, same way we thought, we were like, oh yeah, one song and then we'll get fucking signed to Warner and then our lives will be like,
literally. But
I guess because we're from that generation that watched the beginning of tech, so we know its limits. I wonder if like a 14-year-old now picking up a guitar has that understanding. I don't know. What do you think, man?
It's tricky because unfortunately I don't actually know anyone of that sort of age bracket. But I mean, like, the youngest people I know are my sister and her peers. That's 18, and they are some of the most switched on fuckers I've ever met in my life. Whether that's just because it's Amy and then she's gravitated around like-minded people, that could be it. But they like, throughout all of this that's been going on the last year, they haven't believed a fucking word of it, you know? And they're just, I mean, also the fact that the memes they come out with are just poetry. I mean, fucking hell. The humor on these guys is just unparalleled. I don't know. I feel it'll either be like you're saying with the 14-year-olds, sub-14-year-olds, where they're going to come in and know nothing but text. They are going to be sucked into it. Or they're going to go full, the Wu-Tang Clan and just fucking make analog shit out of like dustbin lids and pieces of wood they find,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think we're going into a situation now with society and life that we're looking, I don't know, I like to frame it as like a rejection or a complete acceptance. I don't think there's like a I think Facebook is too, like, things like Facebook and Amazon, they're now in a position where when we were kids, Amazon was literally, I was ordering fake DS games off Amazon. Like, that's what it used to be. Like, it didn't used to be all this Prime shit and everything like that. And like, Netflix is super, super good now. It wasn't that when we were kids. So we watched it rise so we could understand, okay, there was a process involved in everything here. Whereas I'm not sure if the kids nowadays can look at it and understand the process. And that's what I'm worried about, because I think that process is, I don't know, man, like, side tangent, right? But there's a thing on Netflix called Ice Fantasy, right? And like, I've been studying a lot of film and stuff like that, and like a lot of like, because of my project. And I was thinking about it and I was going, this is a piece of shit. How did this get greenlit? Like, how did this possibly get greenlit? Like, this is one of the shittest, like, obviously it must have a fan base somewhere. But then I was thinking like, well, does it have to have a fan base? Because Netflix are now in a position that they have so much money that they can just take mad risks. Same way that like companies like Amazon and Apple can like, did you watch Swamp Thing on Amazon Prime?
No, I saw the advert for it, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's fucking shit. And it's fucking shit. Like, and there's like C on Apple. I've spoken about it so many times. I think I've probably spoken to you about it. There's a program called C on Apple TV Plus.
Oh, right? Jason Momoa.
Yeah, do you know the premise of it?
I know it. Yeah, it looks so shit.
Fucking stupid. But the craziest thing about that show is, right, there's points in it. I'm like, that is one of the best shots I've ever seen. That's such a beautiful shot. And then you go, those people are blind.
Oh,
and
wow.
Now none of this makes any sense.
Wow.
So it's literally just like, and I don't want to disparage anyone who's blind or anything like that, but like the process of like a whole entirely blind society coming out of an apocalyptic, like effectively Mortal Engines kind of scenario, and now everyone's remained blind by that, right? I had to turn off the program because I was kind of like, even the way that they're navigating stuff, I don't think they've necessarily spoken to like blind people that like, I don't think they've had like a team and gone, does this make any sense? It's like there's things in it I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And it's like, over the course of 100 years, they expect people, it's like 100 years ago, there's some massive explosion and everyone is made blind from that, right? And like, it was a situation where I was kind of thinking like, that's not enough time for human geology, geology, that's rocks, human genealogy to like,
make
human genealogy to like,
yeah,
your hearing is so much better. So I was actually like to the stage where there's still like New York, like buildings around and stuff like that. There's still like buildings and stuff that like, so it's not more than 100 years, I don't think, in the story. I'm just thinking this doesn't make any sense in terms of like, it just pulls you out of it immediately. And I was thinking like, it's obviously Apple have gone, Jason Momoa, few other celebrities in that, amazing 4K visuals, this will sell, and they've just taken a risk. And maybe it's paid off for them and maybe it hasn't, but like, I just feel like we're now in a position where these companies are like, it's like the banking crisis I'll take it back to the banking crisis, 2008. A lot of that was the idea of it was too big to fail. And I just feel like a lot of these like creative industries, I wonder if they just think they're too big to fail, so they can just take mad risks on stuff that isn't done with artistic. The artistic part of it isn't. It feels like we're going a little bit, to me, it feels like a little bit like we're going back to like the kind of like the 80s, and some of the shit that was popping out in the 80s was the wildest possible shit that could have possibly, like, just the stupidest shit. Like, it just like, I can't even explain it. There's just so much shit in the 80s. And kind of like, those films were terrible. Like, some of those films were just obviously a few dudes in an office, 1 a.m., mad coked up, and they've just gone, yeah, let's fucking make a film, man, blah, 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 blah. And then they've just made the film, and it's just come out, and everyone's gone, yeah, that's of the time, and that's cool. I don't know. I worry that like we're getting into a situation where people are thinking less about art and more about like the art is easier to come by. It's easier to consume than it is to make potentially. Like, and I think like, have you seen, I don't know, Snowpiercer on Netflix?
Is this because originally it was a film? Are you talking about the film or the series?
A series.
Okay, I know the premise. I know the premise, but I haven't seen it.
Like the idea of all of humanity being on one train.
Yeah, that's nah.
You see what I'm saying? But when you talk about things like Mortal Engines, the idea of that concept actually has like a grounding in like some form of, okay, I guess it's a fantasy reality, but like, man, like that's a concept. Like if the concept is immediately torn down within the first 5 seconds of thinking like, oh, all of humanity's on a train, all the worst people are on the back of the train and all the rich people are at the front of the train, that doesn't make any sense. There's less rich people in the world than there are poor people. The poor people would immediately just kill all the rich people, and then it just doesn't make any sense, right? It doesn't make any sense to me in the beginning. So I'm thinking like, who greenlit this?
Hmm.
Who was at Netflix? It's like, yeah, get it done. Like, there's a South Park. It's so weird because South Park gets these things right, not right, I'd say, but they have a commentary on it a lot of the time. And it's like that commentary of like, it's like Netflix are just greenlighting anything. Like, anything's getting greenlit, and it's just like, is that what we want for art? Is that what we want for? Do you know what I'm saying? Because as much as I love the Marvel films, a lot of them weren't very good.
I completely agree.
Like, they weren't actually good. Like, I really want to direct a Silver Surfer movie. I really want to do that.
Yes, and do Galactus properly.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
As opposed to that bullshit that came out. Fucking hell.
This is what I'm saying, man. I think they've just gone, yeah, the fucking comic book, they want this. Let's just give it to them. And like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I just think that there's room for like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just sounding like an old fart, but like,
no, okay, you're not sounding like an old fart, because an old fart would be like, oh, it's not the same how I was, and then just do nothing but complain about it. You're not just complaining about it. You're actively thinking about ways that you could do it better yourself. You're thinking, okay, if we did this and did that instead, there's a distinction. I mean, I'm trying to decide which point of yours to go back on, because there's so much there. Let's go with Netflix. I think the Netflix thing, I completely agree. There's so many things that have been like critically acclaimed or like number one. Like, you had like Annihilation when that came out. Everyone's like, whoa, have you seen Annihilation? You're watching it like, okay, what the fuck is Natalie Portman doing? And it's like, this is, and Oscar Isaac's here for some reason. Be like, what actually happened in this fucking film? What actually happened? The premise was cool. And you're like, oh, what goes on? And then you're like, nothing goes on. There's no fucking resolution to this. But on the flip side of it, you've got films like Spectral, which is again an entirely Netflix production film, not a single A or even B class actor in it, but that premise, and you're there like, well, what is this? And then how they discover it and logically work it out, you're like, holy shit, they nailed it. Because it's this whole it's this whole ephemeral thing about like there's a war in East Europe or whatever. There's like some trooper was off by himself, and he's like, oh, there's some weird noise or whatever, and then this like thing comes at him and just like he just dies, and they're like, what the hell happened? So to get like this engineers come and have a look at what's going on with tech and everything, and mate, it's good, watch it. But it's just like at a point, to your question about is this what we're having, is this what art is now? Is it a case of because they have all of this ability to try all these things and play around with all these concepts and everything? I think it's a lot like music in the fact that it's a changing industry, in the fact that which has come with the change in technology. I think you look at like Led Zeppelin, you look at Motley Crue, even the fucking Beatles, you go back to them, you had to be good to be known.
Yeah. Well, you had to have that something. You had to have that something. Like, Motley Crue are fucking crazy dudes, like all crazy dudes.
But you had to be good purely because you had to be noticeable, and people had to know you because there was a few gatekeepers that could get you to what you wanted to do. Whereas now, you're your own fucking gatekeeper. Yeah.
It's everything is on you to do. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. I don't know, man. Like, I really think about it, like how easy would it be to like sit down with Netflix and be like, okay, I've got this idea. I just want to see what they would be like, because I have a theory that they're just like, that sounds like, if they're like, that sounds like a good concept, they're like, yeah, let's get it done. They're just going to do it. I don't know, because while the 80s was a wild time for like music and like everything's popping off, like music videos are coming along, and that's changed the scape of what's going on. All this crazy stuff is happening. There's a lot of coke in the industry, so the maddest stuff is happening. Like, that does lead to the great things as well. And like, it's like, but then again, it's things like what's that thing called? Fucking hell, Netflix. They cancelled it, season 2. You might have watched it. It's fucking hell, what's it called?
Was that a production?
Yeah, it's their own one, and it's
not Stranger Things.
No, it's not Code Geass. What am I talking about? It's fucking hell. It's the one where they've got the chips in the back of their neck, and like that's their
Oh fuck me! Altered Carbon.
Altered Carbon. There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
That was such a sick. I think that's I think Craig, my friend Craig, I think he was saying that that's built off the same premise of Blade Runner, which is Isaac Asimov's do Electric Sheep Dream. What was it? What's it called? Whatever the premise of Blade Runner is, it's like an Isaac Asimov book, and that's the same premise of thing like that. It's like do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep or something like that. Same premise.
Whoa.
So it's like that they cancelled that after season 2 because I guess because it wasn't getting viewership. And it's like, but you will green light things like Snowpiercer because it's easier to like, or it just doesn't. It seems like we're getting a situation where, yes, we'll green light anything, but we won't give anything a chance unless it's popular. And I'm really worried about what we consider. It feels like we're moving to a situation where we're aiming for best like box office smashes as opposed to cult classics. And I think that's just the worst way of framing art in any perspective. You have to allow both the underground and the mainstream to succeed at the same time. And it's just, I just feel like, yeah, man, I feel like we should be like, I don't know if this, like a band like the Smiths or Joy Division would survive if it was just purely based on what was popular. And like, there's like what, 5 or 6 companies, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, I guess, Hulu, HBO Max. That's about it. That control the streaming monopoly, and Disney Plus as well. They control the streaming monopoly. And if those are the gatekeepers, we're going back in terms of with film and television. We're going back to the idea of there's only like a few certain people that can actually get your thing done, and they will cancel your shit if it's not popular. So you have to make something that appeals to the popular masses rather than can be seen as a great work within a niche community. It's a really weird thing. And it's annoying because you may say, hey, we can get around that by kind of democratizing art by using free platforms like YouTube where there isn't a gatekeeper like that. But there's still the idea of that you're relying on that one source of income to pay for the rest. Like, and what if YouTube decides that you don't meet the monetization guidance, like, and then you don't have the money on that? I don't know. I just feel like we're getting more into a situation where a lot of these big companies are beginning to buy up the spaces where art is made. It's like, I'm not sure if you saw it, but like we released through AWOL as Handstand Parade. They just got bought by Sony Music.
Oh shit.
Like for what? Like what? Why? AWOL is a free
Bloody
distribution
hell.
Process.
Yeah.
Why is one of the big 5 record companies coming in and buying the whole shit?
Yeah.
And not only were they talking about buying AWOL, they were talking about buying all of Cobalt, the company that owns them. That includes loads of tiny little labels as well. Like, why are we? I really don't want us to go back into a system where it's just head of Sony, head of Universal, head of Warner, and some other companies deciding everything for the masses. Like, I don't think that's a great way to conduce art. I think we should be allowed to explore and innovate and fuck around with some stuff and make mistakes or make cult classics. Like, there's no way, mate, that Napoleon Dynamite would ever get greenlit by Netflix. It will never happen. It's
I
not.
agree.
It just is. But that film may change, like Donnie Darko as well. Like, that was such a weird film.
You just class that in there as not a good, as a cult as opposed to a blockbuster.
It's a cult, yeah. I think Donnie Darko is weird because it was kind of a blockbuster as well, but I think the cult aspects of it are different to the ones that made it a blockbuster, if that makes sense. Like, it hits both ways. See, if that makes sense.
Here's going to be, now as I'm talking, I'm going to work out whether this is just reinforcing your point or is a counter argument. Have you seen Tenet?
Yes. No, I haven't. Sorry, no, I haven't.
Okay. So Tenet to me is, the premise of the film is that time is not linear, and there is machines created that reverse the onward trajectory of entropy for any given object. To me, it seemed, and I think I'm actually agreeing with like you're saying about Netflix to it, is that it seemed like a complete fucking masturbatory project by Christopher Nolan. Because I watched this film 3 times and I still don't fucking understand it. because they don't explain it. It's not like if you went to it's not like you had Inception when they talk you through what's going on, like this does this does that. It's not like The Prestige where they talk you through it. It's not like fucking Back to the Future. This device travels in time. It's like they didn't explain it, or they did it in such a flippant way that it's just an offhand comment. So the offhand comment is what will explain the whole thing. But because it's just like that in the background, and then this happens, you're like, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know where to look. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I think
that's interesting.
It's not something I'd recommend if you were actually like, I want to watch something that's good, because this will fuck with your head, because you're like, what? And equally, there's like a whole scene where you've got the main character conversing with Kenneth Branagh, and Kenneth Branagh is interacting with this character, the main character, while simultaneously he's going backwards through time. So he's talking in reverse, but somehow the main character can understand.
Yeah, that's
you're
fucked.
Like, what the fuck is going on? On the one plus side is that it has renewed my faith in Robert Pattinson. I'm like, all right, this man's good, because he's fucking,
is he good?
He's fucking good. Yeah,
I need to watch it, man.
Yeah.
I need to watch it. You did a really good job of explaining the premise without spoiling it as well, man. So many people have been like, tried to like talk to you about that. No.
But
that's the thing. Yeah. Do you think that if Christopher Nolan wasn't Christopher Nolan, that film gets made via Netflix?
Nope, not at all. Not at all. No way in fucking hell.
So I'm saying, like again, and maybe another question as well. Do you think Inception gets greenlit without Leo, as it's greenlit by Netflix without Leo? No. Who did Inception? Christopher Nolan, was it?
Yeah.
Nolan, yeah. So no Nolan, no Leo. Do you think that gets greenlit by Netflix? Because I don't think it does.
I'd have to agree.
I don't think it does.
I can't see it happening.
This is what I'm saying, and I really worry about that, because if the younger people who don't have Sky, they don't have TiVo or thing like that, they have Netflix, Amazon Prime, they may have Disney Plus, and if they're in America, they'll probably have they'll probably have Hulu as well, or something like that. Yeah. Do you think, because that's what's shaping their cultural, like that's what's shaping their taste? Like we had like Saturday morning TV. I don't know if a young person growing up now, like if that's an option open for them, where they have like a wide variety of things that they can actually watch and things that they can do. They just realistically have whoever the greenlighting team at Netflix are, that's who is defining the cultural tastes of generations to come. And I just feel like I don't know if a company is what I want to be defining that, if that makes any sense. Like if you have the power to define taste, you have the power to define what we define as good and bad taste. And that's a power that is I think is almost stronger than, like, I often think about punk when I think about like tastemakers and like punk, like Thatcher's crushing the North, like, and out of that comes punk. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we don't have the actual, if you're growing up in a situation where the government is still doing the exact same stuff as what Thatcher's doing, which they probably are because of fucking Boris. Where does the youth of today gain that information? Like where do they find the other tastes? Where do they find that? Do they have to just be super good at the internet? Is it word of mouth? Like, I don't know how they find that stuff. Like, me and Ollie Salter, when we were really, really young, used to like go into Harris Arcade in Reading and in town, and just look through singles that were rejected by record companies and stuff like that. And we used to, I've got a Passion Pit Manners before release. Like I've got like the actual like radio presser that, you know, when we sent out presses to Radio X, same as that thing Passion Pit did before they blew up their first album. I have it. And like that for me is like exactly, it's crazy, right? I think it's amazing that I have that. I went back to that same shop a few years ago, and that's not there anymore. I know. Like, so where do, like, I don't know, like, I just worry about taste. I worry about what people like, and there's a whole thing as well of like, if I think it was Dr. Drew that was saying it on something like that a lot of kids that are younger, their perceptions of love are distorted because of what they see and perceive as love. Like if you actually watch like a rom-com, 95% of it is stalking. Like it's all stalking, it's all predatory, like man, like even Love Actually, man, if your mate showed up at your missus's house, right, in winter with placards telling her how much he loves her, right, that's not cool.
There's gonna be a fucking fight.
That's gonna be a problem, a real problem. And like, if that's, and we're even seeing, man, I watched I can't remember what it was. I watched yesterday with Lucy. I watched PS, like To All the Boys I Loved, PS I Love You, whatever it is. It's a thing.
Gerald Butler.
No. I don't think it's a really new film. It's like Netflix original. Okay. And it's like the maddest thing, right, is the one thing I commend Netflix about, right, is their production rate is crazy, because this film must have come out in like 2018 and there's already 3 other films. Like there's like it's 3 films now. And I watched the 3rd one recently with Lucy, and I was sat there going the whole time. And one of the big questions was like whether this girl was going to go to uni with her boyfriend or not. Or go to a different uni. And she decides to go to a different uni at the end. Mm-hmm. And I was like, but the whole time through the film, I was like, you had the opportunity to really make like an actual statement of being like, well, no, my future isn't tied to my boyfriend at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually want to go to this university, But they portrayed it as if it was this was this noble choice that she was sacrificing her. Well, she wasn't even sacrificing. The school she was trying to go into was like Stanford in America, which is an amazing school from what I hear. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, she was like defining these choices off what the guy wanted to do. And I was sat there kind of going like, this isn't like a good message to her. And eventually the message was good in the end, because she went to a different uni and they decided to see if they could work it out. And I was kind of going like, yeah, that's a good ending, but you taught for a good 70, 80 minutes that choice was a difficult one. It's never a difficult one. What you should be teaching is just the whole kind of thing of, if you don't want to be in this relationship, that's fine. It's not a problem to be. If you do want to be in this relationship, try and make it work. It's no problem. You don't have to be in the same uni to do that. It's probably not the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. And like, there was a character in there that does say that throughout the whole thing. And it's just like, I'm not sure if we should be presenting that as a difficult choice.
I completely agree.
It's just, I don't know what, like, there's so many rom-coms that are happening now that it's like, that I've watched, like the new rom-coms that are doing on Netflix. I'm just going, this is stalking. Like, this is straight up stalking. Like, all of this is stalking. We're presenting this notion that men should be, I don't know, man. It's just like, I really struggle with, I always think when I see something like that, I always think who greenlit that, who wrote that, and what they were going around it. Like what were they trying to do with that? And I think it's difficult, man. I think there's a thing that I learned at uni called I think you'd love to have your own investigation into it. But it's like a thing called cultural canons. And there was a study that they watched, the study that they did about music in Poland. I think, it was Poland. And it was like when I think it was in the 60s, 60s to 80s, they were under, I think, again, you have to fact check me if later on if I'm wrong. I think I will be, but they were under a communist regime, and basically I think it was like 3 radio stations controlled all the music for Poland, right? So, and what they played was like a certain shortlisted amount of songs, and it was things like Queen, like classic rock, Queen, Led Zeppelin, lot of stuff like that, right? And it basically meant that when they came out of that communist regime, if you polled Polish people what they think is good music, like they fundamentally think good music is, it's still the same music. The list is almost unchanged. Like, it was like their top 10 tracks of like 1980 is the same as their top 10 tracks, bar like 3 tunes for 2010. It's the same music, except like one artist might be like another rock band. So still the same genre, but it's one thing. And like, for me, I sat there going like, that's crazy. Those people in the 60s to 80s defined the whole musical taste of what they consider good music in Poland for generations and generations. Like, it's crazy, to the stage where like, it's like, do you remember Steve Tolotsko? He was basically saying that like, if you walked down a street in England when he was with his band, no one would know who he was. If you walked down another street in Finland, they would ask him for autographs, purely because of the type of music he made. So it basically, and the way we were talking about with the cultural canons was that like, if you can create this kind of canon within a society like they did in Poland, you can almost control the narrative of what individuals think is good music.
Course,
so that rap wouldn't necessarily thrive as well as a rock band would in Poland. So you could basically say, as a rock band, say if you're a new rock band in England, you could say, okay, I'm going to do a brief study of the cultural canons around the world. And I found that in Poland, Latvia, Slovenia, and some Scandinavian countries, they have a predilection to considering metal and rock music as good music. I can advertise easier over there and become more successful over there than I would be able to in England, because the cultural canons are not the same. It's an interesting like thing as well. And like, whilst it's all subjective though. So when you have things like a communist state telling you that you can only listen to rock music, but you cannot listen to the blues at the time, or you can't listen to like you can basically like pigeonhole whole peoples into certain beliefs, and it basically becomes a super sick marketing tool if you understand what you're looking at, which is really crazy, I think. But yeah, I think if we allow Netflix and stuff like that, I don't know, man. Like, I don't, because we can't tell Netflix to bring back. I can't tell Netflix to bring back Altered Carbon. Like, there's no way I can. Like, there's so many petitions that have been about it, and they've just gone, well, it wasn't popular enough. So it's like Marco Polo as well. Did you watch that as well?
No.
You would fucking love that, Matt. You would fucking love that. That series is amazing. It's literally, do you know the story of Marco Polo?
Not the actual dude. No.
Yeah, he's a weird dude. He basically like went along the Silk Road, and like he basically went from Italy to Mongol. Effectively, what is Mongolia, but now what is bits of China, and what is basically the grandson of Genghis Khan was the ruler of Mongolia at the time, and they're going through the most, like, they've just set up the Silk Road, set up trading, everything like that. And he basically writes a diary about what he saw, and that's that's his story. You can probably get it for free because it's a really old book. But the TV show basically is just like a more dramatized version of like him, Marco Polo, trying to like adjust to life. And one of the things that was like cool about Marco Polo was that he had a really good way of describing things, like in like a really picturesque, visionary way. So like that's the reason why the Khan kind of keeps him in his court and stuff like that. And there's a lot of historical dispute as to what he saw and stuff like that. But like he saw some cool stuff. But in the TV show, it's like an amazing. I can't remember who the Khan is, but if you saw him, you'd know exactly who he is. He's like a massive dude. He's all the actors are amazing. Super diverse cast, like amazing work on it. But they cancelled it again because it wasn't popular enough, like, and they cancelled it on a cliffhanger as well. They cancelled it with like it's like there's a thing I might have spoken to you about it, but again, I'm just talking to you about probably stuff that you'd probably love to read yourself. But like there's an old story about this character called Prester John in like Christian law, and Prester John is like defined as like this king from a foreign land, but he's a priest king. So, and he's basically like, he's like a really weird character, and he basically appears like sometimes in like Christian like history, like through the Crusades and stuff like that, like a battle may have been won and no one knows who won it, but it ended up being like advantageous to the Christians. And there would just kind of be the whole myth would be that Prester John came in and just decimated the armies of the heathens, and that was his story. And then it became like this traveling king kind of around. So he was effectively his name was Prester John, and his real name was David, King of India. And when you think about it, at the time of the Crusades, do you think there would have been a Christian king in India? So it's like this mythical king that they invest in. And in the story, like Prester John comes in and decimates the Mongol army, and then they just end and then it ends there because they cancelled it. And it's like, you could have explored that. You could have given these people the right to have a good ending to their story. And it's really interesting, man. You would love Prester John, man. He's a really interesting character. No one knows whether he existed or not. No one knows where he was. Like, he's a really weird character.
So is he actually a feature in the story of Marco Polo, or did they just put it in the series?
Kind of. He's kind of around the same time, because he's kind of like this weird. He kind of comes in like he's basically comes in like Theoden does at the end of Return of the King, just comes in, completely wipes out the army, and disappears from all faces of the earth, and no one knows how he does what he does.
Okay.
And it's like this weird thing of like Prester John is coming, like this Christian king to drive out all the Mongols, like he's coming, and his army is so vast, and he like it's just such an interesting like thing. And he is around that time of he's kind of around everywhere. Like there's it's weird. They thought that Prester John was also in Ethiopia, which is weird because it's one of the only Christian majority countries in Africa. And the weird thing about the Ethiopian royalty is that they say that they hail from the line of David. Solomon and Queen of Sheba's son is Menelik the first king of Ethiopia. So it makes sense that a Prester John could have been the king of Ethiopia at the time. So it's a really interesting, he's an interesting character. He's interesting. He's a cool dude.
I can see you just physically holding back to tell me anymore.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy, man.
I want to pull back to something you were saying before, which was about that third film you were saying about like the girl having to choose between her boyfriend and like what she wanted to do. There was someone I heard the other day, and they were talking about, what was it they were saying? They were talking about their parents, and it was a story that their parents had told them about how their mum could have been, could have been a singer. They were given the opportunity of, because they really love singing, they're really good piano player, and they love the opportunity of actually progressing and becoming a singer. And I think what was it? I think she was telling her son that her husband at the time, when she told him about this opportunity, her husband said, "You choose me or your career." And I was like, the fuck? And I was like, Jesus. Savage, man. I was like, okay. I was like, at which point you just go, cool, see you later. You're like, no, it's either
you have to, don't you?
Yeah, you can't let anyone at all stand in your way of what you want to do, because it's going to compromise your happiness and ability, and from what both of us are trying to do, legacy.
100%, man. I think that's
because you've provided a legacy in your progeny, but you can provide that with fucking anyone.
100%, man.
Not hard to do. It's hard not to do it.
100%. Like I feel like, I don't know, man. Like that's fucked up to hear, man. Like
literally, I couldn't fucking believe when I heard it.
There's so much. I've been talking to Lucy about the idea. I basically invented this superhero, right, called 50s Man, right? And 50s Man, when you go back to like watch Mad Men, right, or like things like that, at that time, they are the craziest guys. Come home from work, punch up their wife, literally. Like no martini in hand, just the wildest of guys. And that's the kind of dudes that make that choice. It's me or your music, and it's just like, just wild guys. I just feel like,
mate,
it's fucked, man. Like I don't know if someone.
It made me so fucking angry when I heard that. I was livid.
100%. Like I think there's two things that I find like completely abhorrent in life, and that's the death of innocence, or the corruption of innocence, and the stealing of dreams. And I just feel like you have to really, you have to give people like, I don't know. I think if someone was to come and tell me I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I think there's a nuance between it, because I think that if it's a situation where the guy was saying it's me or your music, if it was a situation where the music would have led to a bad family life, I understand that. But if it's a situation from what it sounds like, that I don't want you to do anything without me, typical 50s man behavior. I don't want you to do anything without my approval. I am the man in the house. I'm the actual guy. Then it's just, you're just a prick. Like you're just a fucking prick. Like you're corrupting someone's dreams because of your inadequacies. Like it's just stupid.
Absolutely. And it was just some stupid possessiveness, because it sounded like it was just like, look, we either do this together with like you either stay here and do this with us, or you go off do your thing and I'm sort of wash my hands off you, kind of thing. And you're like, maybe, okay, let's give it another perspective. Let's take it that maybe they're saying that, look, you either take an emotional thing and you stay here, and that's what we do, because I don't want to go with you on that journey, and maybe they were saying I can't deal with the long distance. Who knows? But I just took it to be like, I was thinking like, nah, it's probably not that sweet. It's probably like,
it's probably possessiveness.
You're an insecure prick. I was just like, nah, that's not what you say, man. I was like,
100%. I feel like that's a real big problem with like men our age, and I think men in general, like the idea of like seeing and perceiving a woman as a possession, or as a almost like a prop, like you see like.
I'm gonna push back against our age.
I think it's the worst in our age. I think it's the worst in our age. I think a lot of the guys that I know. No, I wouldn't say that. Actually, wouldn't say that. Actually.
Yeah, I can say definitely not in my peer group. Definitely not in our mutual peer group. Maybe there are some, maybe. But if I've done quite a good job over the years of whittling out people who are twats. So not around me, mate.
I think there's a lot of like I remember I can tell you the exact time where I realized that I maybe had some of those tendencies, and it was at uni. I'd just met Lucy, like we're going out officially now, and her ex came up. We're in a tunnel at the bottom of a tunnel, and her ex came up, and he tried to swing. So Lucy, I've got my back to the tunnel. Lucy's in front of me. What? So and I can see him. So I see him. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And he pulls back his hand and he swings, and I think he's going to punch Lucy. So I move her out the way, and I grabbed him, and I just rammed him up the top of the tunnel. And I just grabbed him. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. Bear in mind, he's like couldn't be more than 5'4". Couldn't be more than 5, like a tiny, tiny man. Yeah. And he was smiling at me, and I said, she's mine now. And when I said it, I was like, you know what? She's actually not mine. She's her own person. Like, but I needed this guy to know at this point in time. It was like I lost the sight of. It wasn't about Lucy anymore, but I kind of made it about her. If that makes any sense. Like I kind of brought her into a situation where what it should have been was that you shouldn't be swinging on anyone, and that should have been the point I was talking to him about. And it's from that point I realized, like, I'm never ever going to fight for a woman from another man. Like, I just don't feel like it's like, I've had it a few times. Like, maybe it's a good question to ask. Like, you're at a club with your significant other, right? And some guy comes up to you, or comes up to your girlfriend and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" Tries to shoot his shot. How do you feel about that? What do you do, and how do you feel about that?
Okay, I'm gonna refer back to previous experience in this. So, I'm not gonna say names, but you'll probably work out what I'm talking about. So I've been in clubs before with one of my exes, and when they have a few drinks, they're usually extremely chatty, which some people can perceive as flirtatiousness, and she sometimes used to enjoy egging it on to then say "fuck off" kind of thing. That doesn't bother me because I know where it's going. I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna have. Where it does bother me, and has bothered me, is when we've been on the dance floor. I'm with a few of our mates. You're like behind me or whatever. She's over there with a few of her mates. Maybe, and then there's like a group of dudes, like 3 guys. Sorry, I'm getting worked up talking about this. It's like I'm watching this. There's like 3 guys who talk to her, whatever. She turns away to leave. This dude grabs her by the fucking arm and pulls her towards the group. And I'm like, okay, so within a second, I have jumped across the dance floor, shoved her out of the way, and picked this dude up by the fucking neck and shoved him and held him against the wall. But then like 10 random strangers just dive in and just push everyone apart. But it was sick because there was like a whole group of lads who were like, oh, no, not having this. Yeah. So they basically dived in, pulled everyone apart, and basically picked me and my ex up and just carried us upstairs. And they were like, all right, you're going to stay here till you calm down. Because they could see me just like...
Raging. Yeah, man.
Because emotional possessiveness, no. No. Emotional, so no manipulation, no guilt tripping, no emotional possessiveness. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Physical.
Yeah. Physical might be the problem.
Protecting, it's not a problem. That is fucking essential. Because if
I don't know, man.
No. Because when we'd gone home with her and she told me what had happened, she told me more things that they had done before I saw anything.
Oh shit. Okay.
And I'm there like, okay, I'm glad you told me this now when I'm nowhere near him because I can't do anything to him now. But I was like, so physical protectiveness in that particular situation and the one you've told me.
Yeah, this is the thing.
You keep fucking going. You do, because if we take this fucking stupid approach of that you're a strong, independent woman. If I know your dear lady, she's taken no self-defense classes in her fucking life.
Yeah,
and she's never been in
fucked.
And she's never been in a fight. If you just stood there and go, I'm gonna respect her as an independent woman and she can do what she wants. Fucking get the woman shit out of the way. If I'm gonna sit here and respect her as an independent person by this stupid social logic we're now talking about, she's gonna be spitting teeth. So you're 100%. Like, whoa, no, don't fucking touch anyone in my life, all right? Because if you first of all you prevent if you can. If they do touch him, you touch him back fucking harder. Okay, that's what you do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of girls aren't aware. I wouldn't say it necessarily girls. I think there are a lot of dudes, but I think there are less dudes than there are women. But they don't understand. Like, obviously, me and you, we've grown up as men and stuff like that, and we understand that there are some wild guys out there, some real dudes that will do the whole kind of crazy, like pulling you back on a dance floor. Like, I've seen that. Obviously I worked in a bar now, so I've seen some wild shit that men do to girls on dance floors.
Yes,
and it's like, it's fucking wild. Like, I think maybe that's where maybe I'd hang my hat on and say that I think there's a problem with like some men and the idea of like, I'm strong, like, and that validates or I'm the lad where I'm from, and that validates me getting all the girls. Or why would she say no because I'm the man back home, or I'm this guy back home? And I just think, yeah, man, like, I don't know what I would have done in your situation, man. Like, I don't know what I would have done in that situation. That's fucked, man. Like,
mate, it was so fucking wild. I was like, what? I was literally like, plugged into a car battery for the next 10 minutes. I was like, what the fuck is going on? It was nuts. It still affects me now just fucking talking about it. And this was,
because it's nuts. It's fully nuts. Like,
this was
I can't imagine ever grabbing a woman like that. I can't ever imagine like grabbing a woman that I don't know.
Exactly.
And like, what am I going to do? There's a guy that I watch quite frequently. But he makes a thing of that. He says that a lot of guys, they do that whole grabbing the girl thing and they actually don't know they don't know what to do after that. They're just like, grab her, and that's the thing. And it's just like, you don't need to be that guy for your boys. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like those guys are like surrounded by a situation where like they do those things for their boys and not because they actually want to get to know a girl or anything like that.
And let me just say that for these three particular gentlemen, they were of a particular, nationality where they feel they own women, shall we say? So it could be perceived that this is their culture. And chatting to some of the bouncers afterwards, they were like, "Yeah, we've got to keep an eye on them because they've done this before," kind of thing.
That's crazy though. Like, I just can't see that. Like, man, what the fuck are they doing in there then? Like, I don't know. I don't want to restrict anyone's right to have a good time or anything like that. But at the same time, like, if your good time is at the expense of someone else, you're a prick. Like, you're a fucking prick. It's just nothing. Like, I don't know, man. Like, it really gets my goat. Like, it really, really gets my goat, because you see it in everything. Like, you see it in TV, in any kind of consumption of anything. Like, this whole notion that, like, you can treat people like possessions, like that people aren't unique creatures that, and I don't mean to say like in terms of they're unique and they're special and that's what makes them special. I don't believe in that at all. I believe I completely agree. Exactly. We all grow up and we all die in the same. There's a phrase that someone said about Donald Trump that was one of the funniest things I've seen. It said, it's like, why does he care about making the wall? We hit the same, when he dies, the same worms will eat him too. Like,
that's good.
I was like, holy shit.
That's very good.
Like, we're not special at all. Like, the same worms that eat me will eat you too. Like, it's no different. Like, and for me, like, I don't know, man. Like, if you can take into account that whilst you are unique, you're not special in that uniqueness.
Absolutely.
Then maybe you can start to respect other people. Like, you can start to have a little, like, that's the thing. I think it's you see it a lot in everything. Like, I think the way I see it the most in is when, obviously, those situations where the men who don't have that understanding talk to women, and the other one I think is when, like, like people talk down to you in like a kind of a either a work sense or like an artistic sense, where you're kind of like saying like where you kind of can talk as equals as two people who are unique and have your own personalities, and we can be as equals in that, regardless of our position or regardless of our stature or race or whatever. Or you can like, it's just like mad. Like I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's a hard concept to get out. But yeah, I think if we just go back to the idea that you're not special, but you are unique and you are you can start to celebrate those things that make you you. I don't know, man. I think them guys that just grab girls, man, it's actually had me a bit rattled. I can't even lie, bro. They actually fuck me up in my brain a bit, because I can physically never understand that the process.
And unfortunately, we both, with where me and you sort of had our sort of unspoken sort of bond, is that we both had the same reaction to this like visceral gut to be the. It's what we're trying to say to you is that when you're beating yourself up about being protected, that's a fucking good response to have. And I think we both have that visceral primal protectiveness of the people we care about. And
yeah,
we both know the fucking the depths of rage you get when, unfortunately, we both have had people in our lives who've been viciously assaulted. So we both are conscious of of the depths that people can go to, but know that we are not those people. That's the thing.
100%.
Is that you can be angry at them, but don't fucking blame yourself for shit. Which I know we've both fucking done, but we haven't done anything.
100%. But I think that's a hallmark, though. I think of like, I think we've both taken that time to have a period of reflection, and I didn't realize it until I spoke with a few people, and then like you can speak to some people, like maybe it's a question, maybe. I find that I think I speak to some people and go, you have never reflected on anything you've ever done. Like you have never had that point in time where you've been awake at night going, why the fuck did I do that? Like, why the fuck did I do that? Or if they do, they just go, well, she deserved it. Or yeah, that's just what I did. Like, and they just sort of fob it off. Like there are some people like that. And obviously with the experiences we've been through and the things that we know about life, we know that those wild people are out there. Then people are really out there. Like they're really like, they don't have the same reflective point. What they feel they may be protecting may not be a person, but their pride or their honor, which is nothing you have to protect at all. Your pride should speak for itself. Your honor should speak for itself. Like, I feel like them people who do the grabbing girl stuff, they do it as like, well, I have to do that, because if she doesn't respond in this way, it means that I'm less of a man. Like it has a reflection on me. It's just like a fucked up, like
it's yeah. I mean, what is it? Is it a culture thing for some people? Is it an upbringing? Is it? I mean, fuck knows, man. I'm sure there's unfortunately a small percentage of very, very, very small percentage of people who are just born that way, and that's just how their brains are formed.
I had that. I was having that conversation with someone the other day. Like I was watching it's weird because you always see like with this whole new serial killer documentary kind of phase that's going through thing. Like I love watching because I love watching about people, but I'm also very conscious about what that is. But I think like, I don't know, have you watched the Night Stalker one on Netflix?
No, I've heard
Netflix.
YMH had like an entire episode on it, so I know what happens. I know about it.
Man, he's a strange guy, but a lot of that seems to have come from his childhood. So I often think about like whether it's nature or nurture, because I do feel like maybe like, I don't know, man, there's something in kids. Like if you've like spent like a good period of time with like a 7-year-old,
not recently,
man, like if you ever get the opportunity, just take it as like a social experiment and just watch the child. Some kids are brought up with like light and laughter in them, and some kids have this part of them that has no care about other people's feelings, like full sociopath behavior, full like down to a T, no care about what another person thinks, like will spit on you and you're like, don't spit on me, and they'll laugh and then they'll spit on you again in your face, looking you dead in your eyes. Like, and it's just like, I have a feeling like, are serial killers kids who just never had that squashed out of them?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that something, or were they like the first kid, full of light and laughter, just want to have a run around, play around, and they learn something else as well? Like, I don't know whether it's nature or nurture. I don't know whether that.
Well, it's
a fucked up question.
It's definitely both, but it varies by how much of which. That's the question.
So do you think like you could be born with like 50% sociopathic tendencies, like full like psychopath tendencies, and 50% just I just want to have a good time in life, and then just that 50 one of those 50% wins over due to
it turns a majority. I mean, let's obviously resort to fiction here because it's the hallmark of logic. If you look at Dexter, for example, I mean, he's a fascinating character in the fact that he is, you know, objectively, and not a bad person. He cares about his family, his sister, his dad, the people he works with, but he just enjoys cutting people up and putting them in bags. So you're like, okay,
he do, and that's the thing as well. I asked Lucy a question once, and it was like more about the natural order of things. Like, say if like, because the way I think about serial killers is probably a bit fucked up, and I'm very super aware of it, but like I often view serial killers as like the wolves in our human society, like the predators in our human society, in the same way you have predators in a natural world, right? I often think like, if I'm John Smith, I'm born X time, and inside of my nature is this innate need to kill. I turn 25 and I start killing. Am I wrong for doing that? I'm just following my nature, right? Like, I'm wrong by every aspect of society, but am I wrong by nature? If that's what I was bred to do, is that what we do? And like, I don't know, it's a weird question, I think. Well, what do you think?
People take for granted that, people say the statement that we are the product of our ancestors. So we are the genetic result of all our ancestors filtering down over time. What is overlooked, and it's an inconvenient truth, is that the ancestors that we're descended from are the few that survived because they were the most ruthless, bloodthirsty, murdering, pillaging, raping, burning, destroying, looting, fucking people. We are all legacies of the blood of conquerors, however far back for each of us. Our ancestors weren't happy-go-lucky fucking agricultures. They were Viking warriors. They were war chiefs from Sudan, whatever the hell it was from. That's what we're all descended from. We're all descended from murderers and conquerors.
100%.
You're right about your example. John Smith is following his nature because we forget that we are animals. We are descended from chimps who, if you piss them off, they'll rip your dick off and shove it in your mouth.
Fucking real.
But in our society, this mythical thing that we've given these fucking imaginary parameters to, it's not conducive for that behavior to the continuation of that society.
Yes, exactly.
In a predator versus prey, they're the top dog. They're
the top.
Yeah,
they are the man. They are the supreme predator.
Exactly.
Like, it's like if you put John Smith in like turn of this like 1900 or like 1100 in Scandinavia, is he the best Viking? Is he the man? Is he celebrated as the best Viking? Like, is he the best war chief because he has those completely psychopathic tendencies? Like, it's weird, man. I often think about that because, like, it's like Nero, like Emperor Nero fiddling when Rome burned. Was that not just his nature? Is that not just who he was? Like, why do we vilify, like, I'm not saying that he was a good guy in any kind of stretch of the word, but like, I don't know, I think maybe the question I'm trying to ask is it admirable to follow your nature? Like, I think that's the philosophical question that is at the heart of all the things we're talking about, because if a wolf doesn't kill, I guess maybe it's out of need, because if a wolf doesn't kill for the pack doesn't eat. But if I'm a serial killer and I slaughter, let's say, prostitutes on the street, I'm not doing that out of an actual, but is it a need to kill? Is that the need to, it's a strange thing, man. Like, is it admirable to follow your nature in that case? Is or is it admirable to resist that nature? Like, which one gets you the props? Like, is that dependent on society? If you think about, because I was thinking about like the Rwandan genocide, right? And I was thinking like that was, I fully don't understand how any of that happened. Like, I haven't read into it that much, but my thought process is that if all these people were just getting absolutely chopped up and absolutely butchered and raped and the craziest stuff that has happened in the last in human history, some of the stuff that I was reading about. If I put John Smith in there, how do I distinguish John Smith from the next tribesman who's doing that? How do I distinguish that? And I think the answer is that I don't. They're both crazy serial killers. But so John Smith is fine to do that by the government of the time in Rwanda when the genocide was happening, but in England in 2020 he's not. So is it purely a made up societal thing that John Smith is allowed to follow his nature? Like, and why should that come into play? I don't know. It's weird. I just think that if you can have two instances where it's okay to do one thing and not okay to do another thing, maybe that thing doesn't make any sense. And maybe if that thing is society, maybe society doesn't make sense. I don't know, man.
We're getting into the weeds here,
We're
mate.
getting into some shit.
Okay. I'm gonna do a bigger gap. Let's look at you got us here now. We're in England. It's 2021. On this very day, right now in this society, on this planet, we have us here, the pinnacle of evolution in technological advancement we've got. Right now, there is an undiscovered tribe somewhere living in mud huts they built with themselves, and they used spears and knives they made out of rocks. We're living simultaneously at the same time, but completely different spectrums, purely from every measurable standpoint. We've got obviously us, we've got every single one of our needs cared for. We could spend 30 minutes a day on washing, eating, keeping walls just like a byproduct of it, and the rest of it we've got an entire day to do whatever the fuck we want to do. Simultaneously, their entire existence is survival. So they have, and from similar stories you've told me when you've visited relatives, when you've related people who have relatively little compared to yourself now, you've observed that they're happier and more content, and there's a more fulfilled existence because you're actually doing every moment of your time is something productive. We've got free time. It was a book I finished recently. It was Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, and the statement they gave that stuck with me was, it is the ultimate cruelty to give a human excessive leisure time. I was like,
that's interesting.
I was like, shit. But
that's interesting.
What I'm trying to get to is the fact that it's going on from what you're saying about the Rwanda versus now. I'm going to go saying now is still happening, but you've got completely different spectrum on it. Whereas, and with them, maybe they're not the only tribe. Maybe there's other tribes. So warfare is encouraged and is necessary for survival. Exactly. So it all depends upon the society that you're in, because it itself is not intrinsically bad. It's just in the context, because we are simultaneously of nature in the fact that we are carbon-based evolved life forms. But we're also not, because we are outside of the food chain. We're not even in a fucking food chain.
We're not a food chain. That's interesting.
We're just a thing floating around that is like, we can have anything, so what's the risk? And
exactly.
That, I think, because from everything I've listened to and observed about people and listened to other people, their say recollections, I think that because our lives are so fucking easy, unless we instill hardship on ourselves, which is the best because you can fully control what that hardship's going to be, you are going to be very upset. You're going to be very unhappy. You're going to be depressed. You could end up going out and killing people because I just need to feel something. I need to feel alive,
100%. It's like going off your point of like the tribe. There was I was reading about this. Maybe I've spoken to you about it before, but there's a people in Southern Africa called the Khoisan people.
Oh yeah.
And like they I think it was they can trace their genealogy like pure, like no deviations back. I think it's like it's like I can't remember, it's like a stupid amount of time. It's like the dawn of man, like the dawn of man. Their genes have never been changed. They're exactly the same as they were. And there was this anthropologist who basically went and studied them for a long period of time. And his findings is basically like that. The only reason that they deviate, because they're still hunter-gatherers exactly the same way they were in the beginning. They haven't changed their methods because they're super effective. They don't have any like tribal leaders. There's no chief. There's no hierarchy. They all just function as a unit. Really small units of like 30 people. And like, there's one thing that he was saying that like, when he'd go and hunt with them, they'd take the piss out of him when he hunted, no matter what he brought back, no matter what was brought back. If a youngest guy, young 19-year-old goes out and bangs a massive gazelle, it could feed the tribe for 30 days, they take the piss out of him the same way they would if you brought back a chicken. Because they see it as like, it's character building. They see it as like, we can't let anyone think that they're better than X, Y, and Z. So that their perspective is that if I shit on you for everything, you can grow tougher as a person, but also understand that we're a community, and regardless of what we do, everyone gets shat on. So there's no hierarchy. And what he was saying is that the only thing that deviated them from modern man, like where the split must have happened, was agriculture. They don't do any kind of agriculture. And this anthropologist was saying that we may have made a fatal flaw in our entire human society, our entire human lives by creating agriculture, because it basically set up a dynamic where someone had to work the fields and someone had to own the fields. And that then creates kingship, countries, borders. The Khoisan have no borders. They literally just moved. They're just a transitory people, and they've been unchanged and successful before the Egyptian. I think it's like 1,500 years. I think it's like 15,000 years. Sorry, unchanged genotically. So they've seen Greeks, Egyptians, Romans, the Moors. They've seen every people come and go.
Wow.
They've watched the extinction of every empire and just been like, what we're doing is working for us. And it's still working to this day. Like, and it's just a crazy. And they were saying that like they are the best. They're some of the best trackers on the planet because they know their environment just unbelievably well. Like 1,500 years of just passed down knowledge with no hierarchy, no kings, no queens, nothing like that. They're just interesting people to look at, like, because it's a perfect example of what you were saying. Like, when I read it, because he was the anthropologist was saying like, why did we create agriculture? Like, it doesn't make actually any sense. Like, the Khoisan hunt as much as they need, to their environment is never decimated by what they do. They never go and hunt 20 gazelles because they've only got 30 people. They hunt one gazelle, take it back, it's done. And they use poison weapons as well. So they don't actually expend any like energy to do it. Like, they're really smart with what they do.
Wow.
It's interesting, man. They're an interesting people. And I think it's weird because in the context of that, they would look at Boris Johnson or any of our leaders, but why the fuck have you got that? Like, what that doesn't make sense. And not only doesn't make sense, it's proven to make less sense than what they're doing. It's super weird. Like, it's super, I don't think they have any kinds of currency as well. They just function as a team. Super weird.
Do you think it's because there's such a small number that they can survive sustainably like that?
I don't know. I think it's because there's small numbers of them, but I don't know how many. I think there may be like, I don't think there's 100,000 of them. I think there's loads, really less people, but they've never like felt the need to be populous, if that makes sense. They don't have that pressure to be populous. They're just successful hunters. Like, it's like you don't see like, just because there's loads of game in on the savannah, you don't see like 15 million like lions, like, because they kind of naturally go like, we don't need to, like, they function. I don't know whether, but I feel like, I don't know, like they were around to watch what would become the Caucasian race separate and head into Europe. Like, they were around, their genealogy was around to see that. So like, I think that I don't know, man, because I don't think because there's less of them, it means that was the case. I think it's just because of the way their system works. Like, if I took the piss of John bringing back an elephant and I took the piss off Kevin bringing back a chicken and just treated them equally, I just can create an egalitarian system where we just function as a team. And if it's maybe we get too populous and we just split off and do our own thing, it's cool because they're doing their own thing and we can survive in this thing. We don't have to have any disputes between, because we don't own the land. I think that's the main thing, is that we don't own the land. So if I need to go and get more food, I go and move. Like, and that's I think the thing as well. Whereas the situation we have now is that England is it's not a transitory place. You're England. If you're English, unfortunately now because of Brexit, you're in England. Like you are in England. You have to get a passport to go and do these things. Whereas the Khoisan move between all countries and no one can really tell them anything because like this is what they've done for 1,500 years. So you can't really, 15,000 years, sorry, you can't really tell them anything. There's nothing you can say. Like it's weird. It's a weird thing to think of that they were around to see the beginning of Rome and the end, and they're still working in the same way. It's like if Apple was around in, but not even Apple, if anything is around in, nothing we have right now, I don't think will be around in 15,000 years.
I agree.
I don't think anything is built to last like that. It's just like the actual I think time proved them right. Time proved the Khoisan, and they didn't even know that they were right. That's the maddest thing. They just lived. I don't know, man. I don't think it's yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It just loops back perfectly right to the beginning, because they just care about the quality of their art. They don't give a shit about making things more because it negates necessity. It's like, this is against our survival. If we have too many people, it then becomes unsustainable because we then can't support everyone from that. So if we need more people, cool, we'll make more people. And then, we'll build another hut or whatever. But we'll make a few more people because, when they grow up, this person here is going to die at this point. Okay, so we need to have some more people to replace them when they grow up and so on. Cool. But they just don't, there's just no need to do it because it corrupts the purity of the purpose that they're there for, which is just survival.
100%.
And they've done it in such a perfect way that, like, why would we deviate from this? Because it just...
why would it change? It works. Yeah. That's the thing as well. That's an interesting point. I do think it's like that. It all goes back to that Mr. Smith quote, doesn't it? Like, that humans are a virus. Like,
yeah.
And even the purpose, like there is no real, like, after I read about the Khoisan, I was like, well, it doesn't actually make sense. Like, actually, now that I look at the quality of life, like it doesn't actually like, it's nice that I can go and buy a Fender guitar and play everything like that. That's great. But like, it's exactly what you said, man. It's about function and form, like, and purpose, like actual purpose. Like, I don't play guitar like a maximalist. I don't put everything I can do into everything I do because it doesn't need that. The song doesn't need that. That's a really good way of looking at things. That is a really good way of looking at things.
But this is where I think we, from whatever has, experience that we've had together from our music career so far, and obviously it will become whatever it becomes, you need to make the mistakes to realize what you need at the very least and what not to do, and then realize, oh wait, this is what I do need to do, and this and that, and so you do find your purpose from fucking stumbling around in the dark. But you're not going to do it just sat there thinking about it. You've actually got to go out and do something to then be like, that didn't quite work, let's try differently, or no, I'm not going to do that at all, I'm going to do this instead.
100%. You got to be able to fail gloriously. You got to be able to put your all into something and just fail, and be aware that you're going to fail as well. Be aware.
It was like I was listening back to our the first podcast that you, I, and Josh did, and I can only apologize how much of an interrupting twat I was. My God. No,
man, it's one of those things. I think
bad.
But you've got to learn a skill, right? You're learning a skill as you do it, and I think that's the beauty of life. I think you have to push through. You have to explore. You can't be safe all the time. You have to go out and do, which is why I'm so glad that you've gone and done this venture, because I feel like this is a good space for you to be in. I feel like it's like an interesting, like, it's an exploration you're doing, and it's like it's and you're exploring life whilst you're exploring yourself. I think that's a good way of conducting life. I think you need to, I don't know. I think a lot of the tech that we have is supposed to bring us together, but it's actually conversations and actually knowing a person and knowing an experience and knowing listening to people and experiencing those people rather than experiencing what they want you to experience is what draws connections and draws people together, I think. And I think a podcast form might be the perfect form of doing it, actually. Speaking to new people and everything like that. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
Or even people we haven't seen in a while. But I mean, like, you know what we were saying, bollocks. Oh, we're saying about when we use "want more" as an example. You're saying how we spent 5 hours as practicing that. We've actually spent more time than that. We'd gotten to a point where we were disciplined to do twice a week, every fucking Sunday after 6 for however many hours, every Thursday, same sort of time, to do that every single week for however long we did it for. And even before that was when we were a shitty little covers band, and we went and played out an open mic, and our first ever fucking show just as us, and we were sat there and we start and we eat so much shit. We were so bad. You bomb so hard, and you just want the ground to open up and just swallow you whole because it's so embarrassing. It's fucking humiliating. But that is what people don't see, and partly you don't want them to ever see it because it's horrible. But equally, they don't see it because they only see the success that you've reached from the before. They don't see the tears, the arguments, the breaking musical equipment, the people turning up late, the people not rehearsing, the anger, the frustration, they only see the end result, whereas the
100%,
the trying and the struggle is whole part of the journey, because I'm never ever going to fucking bomb again. And while we've had up and down shows since then, it wasn't a single show since then that I was even remotely nervous for. I'm like,
they didn't eat apps. We never ate shit like that. I think you get that once and you go, I'm never going to do that again. It's just like when you're a kid and you touch something hot and you're like, nah, no, that stove thing is fucking hot. You know it.
Oh, I've lost a layer of skin. Not doing that again.
Fucking shit. I think that's the thing as well. You got to learn. And maybe that's the hope for the next generation, is that maybe they'll attempt to do the instant success thing, and then they'll realize, and then they'll know that it doesn't work like that. And I think maybe that's what we've got to leave up to the next. I was talking like I'm an old man, but like I mean like the 10-year-olds now. Like it's like my cousin Taylor is like an amazing drummer, and he's literally like, I think he's probably like 12 or something like that now.
Cool.
And I often wonder about him. Like, I wonder whether he'll make it, whether he'll be the guy. Like, I wonder whether what his experience will be like with that. And if I can help him in any way, I will. But I know that young musicians, we don't really listen to like the old fogies, because you think, well, you did it this way. But when you get to like your 20s or late 20s, 30s, you kind of sit down and go, actually, do you know what? I do like a bit of Pink Floyd, even though they're a dad band. Like they're fucking amazing. And you can't really get around it. It just is what it is. Like, I don't know, man. I think I don't know, man. It's interesting, man. I think there's a lot more hope than despair, I think, for the next future, but we need to be able to have conversations about what we're looking at. And have conversations, be able to honestly say things that we don't like and things that we do like, and reasons why as well. I think that's the, you've got to explore what you like and what you don't like. You've got to be able to explore failure, explore success, explore heartbreak, explore everything, man. You have to explore, because that's a human condition. I think.
Well, it's why I'm so excited from what I mean, from straight from the jump with this coming in. When you were telling me what's going on, I'm like, fuck yeah. Because like when I saw you before Christmas or whatever, I remember seeing you, I was like, you've always been a really, really passionate person, and you've always had this energy about you. But it was always just kind of like a haphazard fireworks display just going off all over the place. Whereas when I seen you, you were more like a controlled supernova furnace. Because you were like, that intensity was still there, mate, but it was focused. Like, it was just, even from like how you walked, how you spoke, how you looked at people, I was just like, okay, this dude knows what he's doing. And it's based,
man.
Mate, it's fucking beautiful to see. And I'm glad to see that it's actually better than when I last, from talking to you now. It's progressed from when I last saw you. I'm glad to see that.
Thank you, man. I don't know. I feel like I'm always pretending, and I feel like this is the first period of time where I can sit down and kind of go, okay, now I know what I'm doing, and now I know how people should be speaking to me and how I should be speaking to them. And I know what my, I just feel like I the vision I see, I feel like I can explain it. I probably haven't explained it very well on this podcast, but I feel like the vision in my brain is so clear. I can almost smell it. I can almost see it. I can almost feel it. I can almost touch it. And now when I'm, instead of kind of trying to throw things at the wall, making them stick, I can see it. I can see it so clearly now that I know that I can never, now that I've seen it, I feel like I can never, I feel a bit like, I feel like I've seen the Elysian Fields. I feel like I've seen Elysium. I've seen it, and now I can't. And now I know where I have to go. And whether it's hell or high water, whether it's success or failure, I know I have to reach there. I have to look at the project and I have to look at everything and say that's something I did and that's something that we tried. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't work, it doesn't work. And I'm comfortable with everything either way. I think.
Fuck yeah, baby.
I think that's exactly it. I think before I was so afraid of everything failing. I think I was the guy that sit down and go with Handstand Parade and go, oh, I really want to get 40,000 streams on XYZ because we got 40,000 streams was the last thing. It's like, that's not how it works. I need to be able to sit down and say, I'm going to put all of it on the page. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll just go back to the board and restructure. I just don't feel, I don't see anyone as ahead of me anymore. I just see everyone as equals. I just see you're doing that, you're doing this, and I'm doing this, and that's cool. And we can all work together on anything like that. I thought about like I had a dream that I had a beef with like a big time rapper, right? And I thought about it, and I was like my reaction would just be like, why are we even? I'm not gonna even talk to you. I would never even talk to a person on that level of like we have a problem and we're gonna spit bars and blah, blah, blah. The thing I did was I literally in the dream I just tweeted them back and I said, do you want to make music or not? Nice. That's where my mentality is at. I want to leave something behind, whether that's work or music or something like that. I want to leave something behind that when I came into this, you could never talk to me the same way that you would talk to me before. Like, I don't want to have conversations with people. If I have a conversation with a person, I feel like, and I feel like you don't believe in what I'm doing, I'm not fussed about you not believing in what I'm doing. I'm only fussed about the end result. I can see it now. So if you're not working this way, we don't need to work in this way. We can move and we can make everything flexible. Like, there's no boundaries anymore. I feel like if I don't need to do this thing, we'll just do that thing. It's like, I've just seen it, man. I've seen the vision, and whether it comes together or not, we'll have to see in the next few years. But if it doesn't come together, I'll be disappointed. But if it does come together, whatever it makes from it, if it's a failure or a success, I'm happy either way, because I've fulfilled my function in life. My function in life is to make these projects. My function in life is to be I won't say not a visionary. I don't think I'm a visionary, but to be the vision guy. The guy's like, let's do this thing. And I kind of try and get it to happen, and I do it, and then something happens from it. I don't care about the fame. I don't care about the success. I don't care about anything. I just care about making art that I can be comfortable to say that was what I did. To sit down with my kids when I'm 45 and say, whether I'm in a Bel Air mansion or a council estate in London, sit down and say, this is what your dad did. This is what I can pass down to you. This is the way of thinking that I can pass down to you. And I can tell you about all my successes, all my failures, with complete honesty and complete openness. And that's I think what I think maybe people, maybe you might be seeing is I don't care anymore. I'm not emotion invested in it. I see the vision as a separate thing, and I'm just the conduit which it's trying to happen. I'm just trying to bring something. It's an ancient Greek principle. The world of forms and the world of forms and the world of materials. And the world of forms is I think the world of forms is
Plato.
Platonian. I've been really getting into it, but it's like, I just think this thing that I'm trying to make is already made. I just need to put the the chemicals and the things together to make it happen. And that's it. And it's nothing to do with me. I don't care about the work. I just care about the work is done. And that's it.
Dude, I haven't seen you in 2 months, but we're literally, I think we discovered the same fucking shit at the same time. I was, I can prove it to you later because I've been keeping a diary for the last few months. But I wrote down a few months ago, and I was like, something just occurred to me, and the thought was, I am the vessel. And that was it. It just came out of nowhere. I was like, the fuck? And then I just kind of thought about it. I was like, oh yeah, the things aren't made from me. They just come through me.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing to do with me. I'm just bringing them into the world. And I was like, fuck. And that just
100%.
If you just take your fucking ego out of it, if you just take
100%
who you are out of it, and you're just like, so all I gotta do is this, and this, and it will come out. You're like, yeah. You're like,
all right, cool.
Let's go. It's great. But
it's the thing.
There's that, and then what we're both doing. Well, no, we're both doing because of what you're doing, from what you're telling me, mate. The only way for you to fail was to stop.
Exactly. That's exactly the way I feel about it. If I stop doing it, it's like some days I have days where I'm like, obviously you have your days where you procrastinate, and I just go, well, that wasn't in the plan. Now I don't think of it as if I lost a day, but I think of why have I stopped? What gave me the right to stop? It's not if this thing is coming through me, why am I plugging the hole? Like it needs to come out. No matter how it comes out, it's coming out some way. I can't stop the flood. It's coming out, so I might as well open the doors open. I might let the floodgates open and let it all come out. And you just have to, exactly as you said, you are the vessel. You're not. It's not about you. Like, it's actually not about you. It's, even if you write a song and it's about your life, that idea was already formed. You just put it through.
Absolutely.
It's a crazy way of the Plato, man. Plato's an interesting guy.
Well, I had soft to him because he's one of the earliest philosophers, and he was also a bare knuckle fucking boxer. So you're like, all right, cool.
Was he?
Yeah,
punching people up.
Didn't give a shit. He was. I think Plato meant it either meant big, either meant big man or strong man. I think it was strong man. I think.
My guy, big, strong. That's what you need, man. I feel like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'd love, man?
Yeah.
I don't know why we don't do it. Well, maybe we do it, but maybe I'm just ignorant of the platforms that we do it on. But maybe we need I would love to do like a Socratic seminar, like just where everyone just gets along and we speak about the quality of life, and we speak about like what it actually means to be alive, and like the actual, like, what do we believe? Like, I'd love to like have those conversations with I'll probably have, to be honest, Matt, you're probably the only person on this planet I have those conversations with. So I'm very thankful for your friendship. I'm very thankful for being on it.
Dude, likewise, mate. I mean, I always have a blast talking to you. You know that, right?
100%, man. Same. Yeah, man. We always discuss the craziest, like I don't know, man. It's. I feel like a lot of people move through life never discussing the quality of it, and what it means to be alive, and where things come from. I think people just take things at face value. People live in the world of forms. They don't live in the world of ideas. They don't live in the world of. I don't mean it to say like I believe that we're better than anyone. I just believe that the world is manufactured super, super well to portray a set. I believe that the world is just like Instagram. The world is just like Instagram. You just see what you were told to see. We see what people believe they see, and that's it. Whereas I feel like you can have a deeper level connection with the things that you see, and the things that you can just have a deeper level connection with the things that you see and things that's going on. Like, you can actually have a real like understanding of things, a real, almost a platonic understanding of things, and this is why I don't think I could ever understand, like, going back into live music settings. I don't think I could ever sit down and have a conversation with some of the people that we've had conversation with, but they're kind of, well, I'm the shit. But like, what made you the shit though? Like, I'm not even talking to you about, like, I don't even want to talk to X person about what makes them so great in this thing. I want to talk about, like, where did that come from? Like, how did you, like, I can't now with the mentality that I have now, I can't have a conversation with a person where it's, yeah, mate, I'm the best. Yeah. You're not the best. It's not about you, and it never has been about you. And you can have you can have a deeper understanding of where that came from. Like, if you write a song that really hurts you, you can really have a thought process about why it hurt you, and you can really think about where that came from, and you can think about the ideas behind it, and the ideas are what's more important than the actual form. The ideas is that the song is more important. Here's the thing: the song is more important than the vinyl, but we collect vinyl.
The song was more important than the vinyl.
Song is more important than the vinyl, but we collect vinyl. The achievement is worth more than the trophy, but we collect the trophy.
Fuck, that's good. The achievement
I don't know, man.
The achievement's more important than the trophy, but we collect the trophy. Fuck, that's a good one. Fucking hell.
I just think I really think about that. I don't care about winning the Oscar. I care about the work that won the Oscar.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It doesn't mean anything, and I don't think it means anything I don't think it should mean anything. It's like it's exactly the same. You can take that thought process about anything. Like, I don't care about the content of the character, but we see the race before we see the content of the character. Doesn't make any fucking sense. When you think about it in terms of what the ideas are rather than the form, we can have a conversation about something deeper. Like, I don't care you did a 25-minute solo. What did that mean to you? Like, what did that mean? Like, what were you what was the ideas behind it? Like, it's not about your moment on the stage. It's about the context of the song. It's not about, it's important. That's important. Man, I don't know. Like, I've never been a collector of, like, I've never been like a big, I like to dress a certain way, or like I like to dress I like to present a certain visage when I walk down the street, but I don't give a fuck about buying. I physically can never connect with a person who's like, yeah, I've got the new Yves Saint Laurent thing, and you don't have it, so you're a prick. And it's just like, but you didn't make the Yves Saint Laurent.
Yep.
You didn't do anything to do that. Why do you feel that has made you better than someone who doesn't? I bleached this hoodie. Like, I printed this hoodie. Like, it was me in my bedroom. I did that, and like, you have no connection to things. So, and I feel this hoodie cost me X amount of time to make. You've just gone and bought something. We have two different ideas of what we're wearing now. Like, you're collecting something, and I'm wearing my product, the fruit of my labor.
Absolutely.
I'm wearing my time on my back. I think that's an interesting idea rather than the monetary value or the material value. I don't know, man.
I'm going to be an absolute prick now and reference back and quote a fucking poetry, but there was something from GCSE that really stuck with me, and it was some poem was basically saying how this person, I bought a dress in the hope I would be as pretty as that dress, and I think it's something like that. Is that you buy? It's not Caroline Duffy, but it's something like that. Yeah,
it's not Duffy. I thought it was Duffy, but it's not.
Sylvia Plath, maybe?
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, it must be. But I was like, fuck, and that stuck with me. That was nearly 10 years ago now, and that still stuck with me, because I'm like, everyone does the different degrees, but we buy things that we hope their qualities imbue us with the same qualities.
Yes, 100%. You buy your diamond ring. Yeah, 100%.
The quality the value that we assign to it, we hope it will imbue with us with the same thing, and that's
100%.
That's exactly what that guy did. Because it's absolutely fine to buy YSL, but only if you're confident in yourself. You did it for yourself, not because of outward perception. Because
if you're wearing the clothes and not the clothes are wearing you.
Precisely. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you
a lot of people live.
If you buy it and you believe and perceive that you yourself are better than others because you have what they don't, and because they have that fucking, so stupid that it works, but they have that genius marketing tool of adding price to it, which makes people think it's more valuable, which is not.
Yes.
You think you are better.
100%. Like, I would wear any designer I want, but I would only wear a designer purely because I understand, because I'm trying to I'm trying to present my body as art. I'm not trying to say I've got this, and this. I'm trying to say that this all together is an expression of what I believe, or an expression of my thought process. And I think a lot of people, again, they get caught up in the idea of the world of forms. They get caught up in that material value. Like, that's all that they can see.
Mhm.
Is not the idea of it, or not what it could be, but what it is. And
Mhm.
what it is not as nearly as important as what it could be.
Absolutely.
Martin Luther King's speech actually doesn't mean anything if it doesn't mean anything in terms of if we just listen to it.
Mhm.
It's just words, but
Mhm.
the ideas behind it are what should be driving. That's what we should be focusing on, is the ideas behind it. Like the amount of people I've heard quote Martin Luther King and have never read the speech, or have quoted Martin Luther King and don't actually know what he means, don't actually know what he's talking about. But
Wow.
that's the thing to do, is shocking to me.
Mm.
It's the idea, it's the form, not the thing. It's the speech, not the man. The idea behind the speech should be what it is. Like no one really knows that Martin Luther King spoke about a lot of wealth disparity issues that are still pressing today, but we know the first line of the speech.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't know. It's the idea. I think ideas are what should be, but it's hard to get people to believe in ideas when all they see is form.
I agree. And in such a world where everything is geared towards consumerism and instant gratification, and that's why that's why there's such a growth in platforms, and there's such a growth in series, is because they're so much more digestible. So you're never giving people a chance to just sit
To think.
and just think.
100%.
Never.
It's like there's because of the project I've been doing, I've been learning a lot of like film techniques, and there's a film technique called Chekhov's gun. You might know it. But Chekhov's gun is a thought process that if a gun is, say in scene 2 or scene 1, you walk into a pub and there's a gun on the wall of the pub, right? And it's just in the scene. Chekhov's gun, the rule means that by the end of the film, that gun has to go off for it to make. If it doesn't go off, it shouldn't be in the scene. That's his whole thing, complete function. So, but when you know that rule, and then you see certain things in certain films, you can then start to think about it and go, I'm trying to think of one that was a good Chekhov's gun. The cat in The Matrix.
Yep.
Has to have function, otherwise it has no purpose.
Yep.
Narsil in Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
If Aragorn doesn't reunite the sword, that has no purpose in being there.
Yep.
So you can sit down and even if you've never read the book, sit down and go, okay, if you know what Chekhov's gun is, you go, why was that broken sword important for that scene? You can go there. But what that kind of come back to your point, kind of as a roundabout expression, if you understand that, you can start to then pick apart the ideas of what you're watching. But a lot of people don't know the idea of Chekhov's gun, and as you said, they're just given series and series and series of never-ending content that they never get the time to think about what certain things mean, or pull apart like the actual ideas behind the thing. They just perceive the thing. But like once you start to learn certain film techniques, or if you have a thought process of kind of going, well, why was that significant, or like separation from the things, you can sit down and say, okay, why was that a thing? You can pull it apart and begin to see the ideas behind it. But you're right, man. We're just given content. We're given content, platforms. Don't leave the platform. And if you leave the platform, here's some advertisement to make you come back to the platform or buy something else that was on the platform. And I just feel like it's almost like a cancer in life. I get so aggravated by the fucking Vinted ad on YouTube. I want to shoot everyone every time I see that ad. Don't wear it, sell it on Vinted. Why are you advertising people to sell the clothes off their fucking back?
Yeah.
Like, is that what we're getting into? Is that what we're at in life?
Yeah.
Is that where it is?
I think fucking hell, we're so cyclical, but everything we're saying is so applicable to everything we've already fucking said. To your point about earlier about your concern about the younger generation, and you're talking about how we had like Saturday TV, or we'd have TV for breakfast or TV for dinner, TV when we're coming from school. We had very clear parameters and delineations between reality and entertainment. Yeah. Whereas now with TikTok, with Snapchat, with Instagram, stories, reels, it's all this weird meshing, which there's a way to make it work. What we're doing now works because it's a conversation. There's no fucking prompters. I've got no paper. There's no one else here except me and you. and it's just a conversation that's being recorded. That's it. There's nothing else to it. But if you take all these social media platforms where you are choosing what is put on it in the perception that is reality, and then you see that person 30 minutes later, you're like, oh, that is who they are. That must be who it would be. But it's not the case. There's this weird blend. You don't know what is real and what isn't.
What isn't. You're again coming back to what we were talking about before. The forms are getting fucked. The form and the idea is getting misconstrued, and we're beginning to perceive certain forms as if they're ideas.
Yeah.
And that's fucked, man. It's sad to see. I don't know how I would be as a human being if I was raised in the era of Instagram stories. I don't know how I would like. How could you? Like, there's a TikTok star. I think her name's like Charlie, the cameo, whatever her name is. I don't give a fuck. But she's got like millions and millions of followers, and I think she was like something like 15, 16 when she did it, right? Michael Jackson couldn't hold up to that amount of fame at that young age without completely cracking as a personality. None of our child stars have survived these things. They really don't. They don't. They may live, but they don't survive.
Agreed.
Like, why are we like? What is that? Why are we doing that? Why aren't we not letting our children be children before talking about TikTok fame, YouTube fame, success on this thing? And I'm not against success, but I don't think we're in a situation where we're looking at the consequences of actions. I think we're looking at the success of the action and what that can be perceived as opposed to what it actually is. Like, man, like, could you imagine being raised? Imagine like, it's like that stabbing that we saw in Reading the other day with that girl. I saw some of her Snapchat stories, man.
I know, mate.
And it broke my soul,
mate.
It broke my soul. I don't know. There was a point in time I thought humanity isn't worth saving. If our children are doing this, humanity is really not worth saving. There's that we've lost every part of us. Like, and the maddest thing about it, I said it to my mum actually, because I explained to her what happened. I said, if you saw a picture of that girl, mum, you wouldn't think she was the age that she was, and what allegedly she was doing. Again, allegedly, because it was all mad. What allegedly she was doing was so beyond her years. It's really worrying. And her perception, and she has that childlike perception. I have a theory that I think all children are fully psychopaths, but that's another thing. But she has that childlike understanding of consequences, in the fact that she has no understanding of consequences, and her actions mean nothing. It's just all fun and games. That the guy she effectively put her hair out on a guy with no consequences as to what would happen in that situation, and the guy died. Like, we're not worth no part of Instagram, no part of perceiving, trying to send this perception that you're having the littest life of all time, everything's popping for you, is good enough for a human life. Not any part of it should never have taken the standpoint. But we're in the idea of that the form is more important than the idea, or that we're trying to make you twist the reality, where we're having like an understanding of that the form is the idea and everything's all the same. Everything's all mixed up and jumbly. I don't know what I'm actually perceiving. I don't know who you really are on the internet. Like, that boy died over some fucking internet shit. That he really died. Like, God rest his soul. Like, a child. Matt, we used to walk down that, at the same age, Matt, we used to walk down that path where he died, chatting about Transformers, chatting about the stupidest shit, chatting about the new Pendulum album and how crazy it was. What's new with Skrillex? Listen to this song off my Sony Walkman. Like he died at the same age. All his potential is gone. All of what he could be is gone, and it was taken from him. It's a mad. When you look at when you believe what you perceive, online, the world becomes there's this book, this one, Virtual Theatre. Is that coming backwards? Yes, it is. Virtual Theatres by Gabriella Gianchi. And there's a part in it called The Hypersurface, which is where this weird part, it's exactly what you're talking about, actually. This weird part where what's online is, as we have this perception of what we have online as being either a fake world or something completely separate. Like I can be whatever I want. You see it all on these like documentaries of the internet. I can be whoever I want online, and no one knows who I am, and it's all the Wild West. It is the Wild West, but the internet is no less real than the real life that you perceive. Your actions of who you perceive online, so like say if you're a stalker of someone online, you're in love with that perception of the person, not the real person. But if I go out and murder that person because I'm so obsessed with them, the online perception was as real as the real perception. It was completely the same. Like the guy who killed Gianni Versace, his perception of Versace was so real to him that he went out and murdered him. It was so real, and it didn't exist, but its consequences, its real world consequences, is completely real, completely tangible. And that book basically goes into this thing of the idea of this hypersurface, where it's this weird, you can basically start to create this weird middle ground where what is happening online, the online space, the online surface, the online world becomes slightly meshed with the real. And it's like this weird tech territory that we don't really know where we're going on. And I think this author, she describes like the internet as like the last wild frontier for humanity. And I never thought about, when you think about it, as if it's like the Wild West, anyone can really do whatever they want, but it's still real. And that's the thing that I think a lot of the people who are younger than us, who are kind of born in this situation, born with these structures, they're seeing this thing with the perception of it, well, that's over there, that's not real. I go out in real life and I go and do my shopping, and that's real. And when I'm on the internet, that's not real. So that's why I can be a fucking cunt online, be a vicious racist troll in Xbox live chats and stuff like that, and the craziest shit online. But it's as real as the real world, and that's the one thing that we're not taking into account, because that boy, unfortunately, he died over some perceived internet shit online, but he is dead in the real world. Like, and that's the maddest thing. And the even crazier thing is what the woman is saying in that book is that his online profile is still around. So is that real? Like,
yeah, I mean, if this had happened 2 years ago, mate, that would have been less than 500 meters from my front door.
This is what I'm saying, man. Like, you got to think about all the interactions we had as children in that area, and then think about how fucked it could have been. Fucked it could have been.
Yeah, mate.
Like we never would have, like. It's hard to wrap your head around. Hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, I mean, if you break it down to sheer numbers, we would have been there hundreds of times over 6 years or whatever, and it just boggles the mind. You're just like, what the hell? Like, how? And particularly at that fucking age, as you're saying, is they're exhibiting tendencies of a fucking adult. It's an adult's mentality to do that sort of shit.
She effectively allegedly put a hit out on that guy. Allegedly, like that's what it was. Like, and I cannot fathom what kind of societal pressures there must have been on us to make us do stuff like that. Like, I understand in London it's a different ball game, but like in Reading, like when we were that age going to the same school, like I think the only thing that I would change in that scenario is the fact that these kids have grown up with social media and they don't understand how it works. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand how this shit is really as fucking real as real life. Like, you cannot put on Snapchat, my boyfriend's fucked off, allegedly, my boyfriend's fucked me off, I'll give you some money to kill him, like, or to stab him a bit. Like, that's real life shit. Like, that's real life shit. And it's not just fun and games for the internet. It's not everything has to be post a pretty prick on Instagram and everyone thinks I'm beautiful whilst I'm crying in my bed in my shower at the same time after posting that. Like,
Absolutely.
it doesn't. I'd wish I have these conversations with Lucy about it a lot, because the industry that she's working in is effectively that. It's effectively marketing a perfect life to people who don't necessarily see the times that me and Lucy are having the worst possible arguments at the same time, but you would look at her stories on the same day and think she's having the best day of life. And often talk to her about it and say, like, because I have a lot of problems with that industry, because I feel like it tricks a lot of people into doing things that they wouldn't necessarily do if they had the full information of what they were doing. And it's the same shit. It's the same shit as the reason why this kid, this young boy is unfortunately lost his life. I think it's the same thing. It's all forms and ideas, and what we perceive as forms, what we perceive as ideas, what we perceive as real, and how we act on them. It's fucked, man. It's fucked.
Somewhere I heard there's a looking is not the same as seeing.
Yes, 100%. I 100% agree with that. 100%. I 100% agree with that. I think a lot, and that's what I feel like a lot of people do. I thought a lot of people live their life just looking at it.
I
and
agree.
They just go, okay, this, I will accept the things that I see before me as perceived, because that's what I'm looking at. And not everything is that. Not every homeless person is a crackhead.
I agree. Yeah.
But people perceive homeless people as all crackheads, and they're not necessarily. You don't know the stories. I've had a few good conversations with homeless people. I've had a few good conversations with homeless people that have told me their stories and told me stuff like that, and it's been amazing experiences. But at the same time, I've also had conversations with some people where they perceive me, or I've given money to certain people that way, and then seen them ask me for money either same day or next day and not know who they spoke to. So I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm looking at. Where certain people, they really, that's such a good point, man. That's such a good point. People look, but they don't see. What do you think? How do you think people get from the idea of looking to the idea of seeing? How do you think what's the roadmap that they get on?
As in, how do they get from one to the other, or why is it that most people don't go from one to the other?
Hey man, either way, they're both good questions.
Well, I can tell you why they don't, because that's a much easier answer. People don't because there's too much stimulus. There's too much to look at. You physically cannot find the truth in everything. It's impossible. You wouldn't get anything done. How do you go from one to the other? I think you have to know what you perceive to be valuable, and I spent a lot of time I spent a lot of time over the last year sort of winnowing down my Instagram following, because there's some things like people you hear about and you're like, oh, okay, I follow that as an interesting person. Oh, I know that actor, I know this, I know that, I know whatever. You end up with on your account, you're following like 1,000 people, and you're like, why am I doing this? Because it's just too much. It's just so much sensory overload, and you feel like you've got to scroll through it before they changed the algorithm. So when it was just chronologists, so whatever came out most recently, you see it. You feel it made you spend a lot of time on there because you're like, oh, there's all of these people, I haven't seen what they posted. I'm on now 116, something like that, and I feel so much fucking better because it's just people I know, or people who I have gotten direct value from and continue to get value from. I think that's the only way. You have to know what is valuable to you, and only surround yourself or expose yourself to things that are a small amount of things that are of value to you. Like some things. I think I've come to this revelation late in my life as well, because I can reflect on a period of my life, which I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to say when, because you'll know when it was, when I was just an absolute bitch. I didn't give a shit about myself. I didn't look after myself. I didn't eat right. I didn't drink right. I didn't read. I went 2 years without reading a fucking book. I mean, and it wasn't, at that point, I would just consume shit that didn't add any value to me. I didn't care about, but I just did because X amount of reasons. Whereas now I keep myself at a very, very long distance from that stuff. Like I refuse to watch certain TV shows. I refuse to talk to certain people. I refuse to go to certain places. I don't interact with some things because it doesn't add any fucking value to me. I'm not spending my time trying to work out what this TV show, what this person, what this product, what this shop is trying to do to me or trying to say to me, because it's of no value to me. I'm like, and you either realize people will either spend their entire life in mild pain from what they are consuming, literally and figuratively, or they'll have a day when they'll have a brief amount of time when they're not consuming it, realize, oh shit, I feel so much better, and then they'll change everything. Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard, man. I think there has to be like.
I do have an answer. The answer is you need to have a period where you don't touch any stimulation. So you have no YouTube, you have no podcast, you have no Netflix. You need to have time by yourself to think. You need to have no series on the background, no Harry Potter to fall asleep, no fucking podcast to wake up, no, even if it's for like 2 hours, which, and I know what this is like. Yeah. I've known firsthand what this is like to go from full stimulation to full nothing. The first minute is terrifying.
Yeah.
But then you're just like, oh shit, and your brain wakes up and you just have, it feels like an hour's gone past when it's been 10 minutes and you're like, what in the fuck? Because you're realizing your potential. It's like you are a prime example for me. I think subconsciously I took inspiration from you from this. And the fact that whenever we used to have band practice, I'd be like, oh, do you want to lift home, mate? You'd be like, nah, I'm walking. I'd be like,
yeah. Do you realize why I do that now?
I know, yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm like, why do you want to walk? And you're like, my brain wakes up, and I was like, and you're like, I write songs when I'm walking. I'm like, fuck, and I'm
literally.
I'm exactly the same, but not for songs. I have revelations. And I just think about shit when I'm just by myself. It's like being in the shower. Showers are brilliant for that because there's no stimulation except your fucking thoughts. It's amazing.
100%. That's exactly why I do that. And literally, I don't even remember when I like realized what I did. I always knew that I liked to walk, and I was like, I like a good. It's the reason why I can't drive. I actually realized why it isn't. I just can't sit. I know I couldn't sit in the car, pop the radio on, because I'm just like, I'm not actually. I don't feel like when I'm walking, I feel like I'm doing work. I'm doing a work. I've got to get to a place from A to B. I time myself, and in that time period between A to B, I have an understanding where I can either listen to. Sometimes I go for a walk, I put my headphones on, I don't listen to any music. It's just silence. I just walk. And if you've got noise cancelling headphones, just walking to silence is fucking amazing. It's just silence, and you get into a point in time where you've walked like halfway home and you go, I haven't put a song on yet. Why have I not done that? And you think about all the things you've been thinking about, and then you go home and then you write a song, or you go home and then you like, it's just that point in time we need that break. Like, I'd refuse a walk home. I'd refuse a lift home from people, and I'd feel kind of bad. But then I'd get on the walk, and I'd just forgotten about any kind of face feelings, any kind of stimulus. It's just amazing. It makes you feel. There's something about walking. I feel when I do that is that I feel like I'm an actual autonomous body moving through space, and I feel like when you're in like a car or something like that, when you're in like when you're not powering your own movement to a place, it feels too easy for me. It feels like I'm missing time. I always feel like a little bit annoyed when I get like a lift from someone, because I'm kind of like, well, I could have used that time to do X, Y, and Z. So I loved getting the train back from Falmouth rather than doing like, it's why, because I felt like I was in control of my destination. I had point A to point B, and it was me. If I didn't get there, it was because of me. And that was like, it's interesting. Walking is good for people.
Mate.
Walking is amazing, man.
Yeah, it
gives you that space you need.
Yeah, in so many, I mean, particularly that. I mean, yeah, in answer to your question, then define that to change from looking to seeing is you need to embrace the silence.
You do. I think loads of people try to fill silence. They try to fill silence with something. And I know I chat a lot of shit, but like, I think that's the one thing I'm more comfortable with. It's one thing I've taken to doing when I'm doing like meetings with people, if I or like having conversations with people. It's just silence. Like if I feel like a conversation is over, like I have nothing left to say, I don't say anything. If I feel like even with text, if I don't feel like I have anything to say, I won't say nothing. If I if I don't agree with what you're saying, with what someone's saying, if I don't agree with, not even agree with what someone's saying, that's the best thing. If someone's talking that I don't believe in, don't need to talk to them. I can have my silence, and I can be comfortable with having a conversation with a person that I don't agree with, and I just don't need to say anything to you. And that's it. That's all it is. Like, that's all it is. I think silence is a powerful tool. I was talking about it to a colleague of mine at work, and it's just like in the Genius Bar, there's so many people that will kind of try and bait you into certain things. So, oh, it's not very good, is it, mate? I don't need to validate that with a response at all. All I need to do is get back to XYZ of doing my job. I don't need to validate anything with any. I'm a human being. I'm in control of my destiny. I don't have to respond to your stimulus at all. I don't have to, like. Sometimes I'll watch ads on YouTube just so YouTube knows, like, just so that they know that I'm not, that they can, so that if you watch my YouTube algorithm, right, and like watch the ads I get, you'd be like, why is he getting like Chinese like dancing advertisements? What is that? Why is he getting? Because I don't need to respond. I don't need to fuel into those narratives. I don't need to fuel into other things like that. Silence is the most powerful tool I think a human has. I think it's I think in terms of seeing and looking and seeing, I feel like you can take that time period that you could have been saying some shit that doesn't mean anything to be silent. Like, I think that's a really powerful tool I'd say for people to have a look into. It's just the idea of that you don't, I think it's something that I think I learned it from a girl. I think maybe it was Abby. I think Abby taught me that, actually. Abby's got this really cool thing where she doesn't give a fuck about she doesn't really give a shit about what other people says to her. Probably should have named her, but good friend of mine. But there's a few other people. It's actually women that have taught me that skill, actually. Because especially there's a girl that I work with at work, and she's one of the most inspirational people that I've ever met. And I'd never really tell her that because we have a very complicated relationship. But she doesn't feel the need in any situation to respond to you with any kind of stimulus that you would actually want. She doesn't need to affirm any kind of belief that you want to have. And Abby does the same thing as well. Has no need to, like, if I don't feel, she doesn't do the whole fake thing of kind of like, oh yeah, I did that as well. She doesn't need to do that. All she needs to do is just apply the silence, and then you can fill in the void. Like, it's a weird thing of, like, a weird power dynamic, I think, that that you can exploit. And I think you can exploit it with yourself. When you're silent and you're on your own, what fills your head is what is really there. What's really there. It's like it's like that idea of, like, when you let a man talk, he'll hang his own noose. Like, he'll walk himself to the gallows. Like, I think that's something that's important as well. Chatting shit right now, but I feel like it's
you're really not, mate. It's
really hard concepts.
It's a negotiation technique. If you say you and I are talking and you're selling something, no, you're buying something, I'm selling something, and you're like, I'm like, okay, this is the product, this is what it does. You're like, okay, okay, how much is it? And then I say, oh, it's X amount, and you say, and that's 10 times what you expected. You'll go, whoa, that's a lot. Now, depending on who speaks next dictates who wins this. If I speak next, I've lost. If you speak next, you've lost.
At least do that as well. It's fucked.
Yeah.
There's have you seen there's a guy, JCS Psychology on YouTube.
Okay.
He does criminal psychology cases. It's right up your street. I know I've said a lot of stuff is right up your street. This is Matt 101. Especially this guy, I think he's like a Canadian guy, and he just goes through, like, police interrogations and explains to you point by point what's happening.
Yes, I've seen some of these. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing, man. But, like, he was talking about the power of silence as well. And, like, I think it's just a good thing. So many people are so uncomfortable with silence. If, like, it's something that you don't find in, from my experience, when you speak to Scandinavians. They have a very, very interesting way of speaking. Like, it's just direct. It's just to the point. Like, I'll just say, and I don't mind if it's silent. We just however this conversation has to go to happen, it's going to happen that way. And we're very comfortable doing that. And if you, it's kind of like you've got two stoic people talking,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have no need to appease you with what they're saying. All they need to do is say what they're saying. That's the goal of the conversation, and that's what they do. I met a couple of people like that as well, and they're some of the most amazing people I've met. And it's such an interesting way of English people, from my perspective, have this weird thing of being, and the Americans as well, from what I've seen, have this weird need to be flowery with language and talk around a subject and then fill in the blank afterwards. There's a lot of the Scandinavian people I speak, they're so direct and so open that when they come into contact with different cultures, it's sometimes perceived as rude. I don't think it's rude. It's just they understand how to apply silence and when to be silent and when to not be silent, and when to, that you don't have to approve of what everyone says or what everyone says to you. You just need to be able to hear it. And that silence is amazing. Like, I've heard what you said and now I'm going to speak. It's more like a method, like a functional form of talking rather than a narrative way of talking. Like, you know, those people that was, well, me, effectively, I talk so much shit sometimes. I literally can talk myself into a fucking coma. Like, I talk so much shit sometimes. But if you got me in a business meeting situation, I wouldn't ever talk like this. I'd just be like, okay, what do you need? What's the littlest amount of words I can say that directly gets to my point, and I'll use those exact functional tools to get exactly what I need. And if you respond to me and your response is, oh, that's great, mate, that's cool. I'll get that to you next week. I'm not talking to you until next week. And the message I'm going to message you is, have you got this thing? And that's what I'm going to message you. That's the only way we can talk in that perspective. From a business perspective, I think with friends, I think I'm way more flowery because I'm an English boy at heart. But I think taking taking the power of silence and understanding your worth in a conversation, and understanding your worth in terms of being comfortable with yourself in any situations, means that you can just go for a walk with no music on and just enjoy yourself and enjoy your surroundings, and really begin to move from looking to seeing what's going on, and seeing your perspectives. I find sometimes that listening to a podcast going for a walk can be as entertaining as listening to nothing when you're walking. And that's the interesting thing. If you can be comfortable with yourself, I think you can learn to love a lot of stuff about who you are, and learn a lot of stuff of what you don't like, what you do like, and what you see and what you don't see. I think.
Mate, extremely eloquently put, but I wouldn't expect anything less from you, you know?
I try my best, man. I try my best.
Mate, we've been going for 2.5 hours. We've been going.
It has been 2.5 hours, man. It's been a very pleasant 2.5 hours.
I know.
I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Well, we had a lot to catch up on, you know?
We've had a lot to catch up on. We need to go for a walk at some point soon as well. And
hey, I'll work around you, mate. I have no idea what's happening with me. What's happening with you guys in going back?
Oh man, I think we're going back on Thursday, but it was just Genius Bar.
Okay.
Backstage, me and Josh and Andy will be coming back as well.
Okay.
It's just, I don't know. It's annoying, but I prefer working like that more than working from home. I do a technical job. It's just it seems pointless to me to do. Like, I don't see the point in doing training on how to fix XYZ if I can't physically get my hands on it in the next week, because that information may not be retained by my brain because of the schedule that I keep. So for me, it's a bit like I do these mundane things. Do you know what I'm saying? You do these mundane things for no real purpose, and then you have to then relearn those things anyway when you get into the real world environment. It's like if you're training to play football, but you're not going to get onto the pitch until next year. It's just a bit like you've done all the book learning. What's the offside rule? I know that, but it may not be the same in It may not be the same in actual play. You have to kind of have that real world touch experience. You have to see the idea rather than the form. Back to that.
Well done. You snuck that one right in. Yeah, no,
in, man. How about you, man? How's going back for you? How are you dealing with the old lockdown?
And you know what, mate? It's getting to a point where I'm actually in like a good routine, because I mean, I'm making more of an effort to speak to people. I've got this going on. I'm exercising. I've got my other coursework going on. Done a few exams. You know, I'm like, it's ticking along. And now I'm finally in a point where I'm like, this is cool. I have to go and start all over again, you know. But well, that's fine. That doesn't bother me. It's fine.
I have those changes to routines, man. Dealing with adversity.
Exactly. The obstacle is the way, my friend.
100%. 100%. You have to go through, not around.
Exactly. But yeah,
Go on. I'll give you a final thing. Do you know who Marshawn Lynch is?
The NFL player.
Yeah. Have you heard his he basically has, I think he does this interview with this reporter, and they're like, when did you know you were when did you know you were going to be so good? He was literally like, the quote is the maddest quote. It's like, when I realized that if you just run through a motherfucker's face over and over and over, and he says over like 15 times. He's like, over and over and over. He's like, they just can't take that. And I was like, holy shit, they really can't. The Marshawn Lynch, philosopher of our times.
That's a hell of a quote when you run through a motherfucker's face over and over and over and over and over. They really can't take it. I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, the people. Okay, do you want to hear my judo analogy for life?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to apologize to the listeners because everyone will have heard this by now. But it's basically, I realized that it's like after 7 years of not doing it, I realized that judo is an analogy for life, because you're walking in there knowing that you're going to spend the next hour getting thrown on the ground to then get back up, to then get thrown on the ground, to then get back up, to then get thrown on the ground, to then get back up. And you're going to do that twice a week for 10 years. And that's it. There's nothing more to it than that. But that is life.
That's life.
Yeah,
that is life.
You're going there knowing you're going to hit the deck to then get back up again, and to then know you're going to hit the deck to then get back up again.
100%. 100%.
But the weird thing as well, that as I'm talking about, as I'm realizing it, is you get better at hitting the deck, and you get better at lessening the impact.
Yeah, 100%. And that's life as well.
Yeah,
that's life as well. But you only get that if you pay attention. You only get that if you think about it.
Mate, we could take like 17 different clips from this and just make, there you go. That's a book written, done.
Like that. By doctors Della Harping, Howe. It's us with like berets just.
And the title will be How Do You Do It? Spelled with an E.
How do you do it? Harping on with Della Harp.
Yeah, I like that. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Unfortunately, I've drunk a shitload of water, so I need a piss.
See you on the flip, my man. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right, buddy.
And we'll see each other soon.
We'll get it done. Much love, baby. I'll see you later.
I'll be the same.